Well, if I look pale, if I look like I'm out of breath, if I look like I'm about to pass away, it's probably because I am. Gary, you're a coach, and I know coaches have to stay even keeled. And you've told me this before that you're pretty even keeled during games. But I mean, how does a person like you react to something that we just saw on CBS? How do you react to that?
That brought me out of my seat. I'll tell you that right now. That was an amazing finish, which was so cool. That's what this time of year is all about. And I give them credit. They just, it wasn't one of their better games in a lot of ways, but they found a way to win. And that's what you got to do in March. You just, survive and advance, as they say. And that's exactly what they did. So they deserve a lot of credit for it.
There was a lot of criticism. I was watching watching the game with a family member, and he looked at me and he said, "I think it's time to take." This was like 5 minutes to go. All right, it's like I think we need to take Jordan out and get Connor back in there. And I looked at him and I said, "We're not taking Jordan out of this game right now. If there's any way Iowa gets back in this game, it's through his shot making. Just talk about Jordan Bohannon. I mean, people can be critical of him, his defense. We get it. He is one of the more clutch players at this level that I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's been doing it for all the years he's been there. Big shot after big shot. He's not afraid to take them. That play bogged down. Indiana covered it well, and he makes a huge shot. And so it's funny, as you're saying. I was writing down some notes prior to coming on with about 2.5 minutes ago, and I wrote down, boy, the guards haven't played well, and they've been playing so well of late. I think he was 1 for 7. Makes his last 3. I thought Tony had a very average game. He makes a huge 3-point play on a drive, on a set play that Iowa's run for a long time. In fact, they ran that play twice in a row. The first time Tony took it in and got a 3-point play. The second time he hit Keegan for a wide open 3, and that was the 6 points that got him right back in the game. And, the guards didn't play particularly well, and then they just stepped up when they had to, and that's a sign of a good team. I mean, that was a game they could have easily lost and just found a way, and that's pretty cool.
What were you thinking when Tony Perkins dribbled down the court up 2 and turned the ball over for an easy?
He got in a little too much traffic there. That's where you got to be careful, and you got hands coming from every direction, and that was a huge turnover. But they survived that one too. So. We weren't great with the ball. We usually Iowa's terrific with the ball. We had some turnovers that were not common to what we normally play. So, but you're going to have that, and that's why, like we said, you just got to find a way to survive, and that's exactly what they did. Now they got to get some rest and see if they can't find one more 40 minutes to get a championship.
I don't think Iowa fans are too used to these types of moments, Gary. So, you were a part of a couple Final Fours at Wisconsin and sustained success in March. But this is one of the, and this is going to sound like I'm just exaggerating and living in the moment. Maybe I am. But for an Iowa guy born and raised, this is one of the greatest basketball moments that I can remember. I mean, that's sad of me to say, but I don't think so, because we talked about the implications here. Not only are they going to the championship round for the first time since 2006, but just the fashion that they did it. And this was a true road game. I mean, we knew it was going to be packed with Indiana fans. And you're right. Iowa did not play nearly to what they've been playing. And I give Indiana a lot of credit. Trace Jackson Davis is a load. Mm-hmm. I was disappointed with certain facets. I'll say this. I'm not going to rip anybody in our chat. All right. Because there's been a lot of cynical people. I've been accused of being cynical. You ain't going to get no, cynical comments from me today, Gary. We can talk about how Iowa can improve, but I'm not going to. I thought about throwing all these comments that people started to vent with prior to the end of the game. I thought about throwing these up on the screen. I promise I'm not going to do that and embarrass anybody. I understand why people were frustrated earlier in the game, but I'm happy to see a lot of Iowa fans who are in here and enjoying this moment, because, Gary, just talk about that, because as Iowa fans, or certainly the players and the coaches, how important is it to enjoy this? Because you play another game tomorrow, and we could easily be disappointed in, a little over 24 hours. How important is it for the players and the fans to enjoy this moment right now?
Well, it's a small window. You just don't have these opportunities very often. And so when you do, you like to get a chance to enjoy them. And this team has been magical pretty much all year long. Now, there were some moments where they didn't look very good, but this last half of the year, they have just come on strong and just gotten better and grown together. And if you're going to advance in the NCAA tournament, you got to win games like that where you're just not quite right, or you get a really great effort from somebody from another team that Iowa got from Indiana. Indiana had a great win over Illinois, so they had some momentum, and the team's got some real good players and a good coach, and there were times where it didn't look very good, and yet they scratched and crawled and clawed and whatever you want to call it, and just made enough shots and got enough stops to escape, and that's what March is all about.
If you have not already done so, please help us out, help this show to grow. Share this on social media, especially with a lot of happy Hawkeye fans. And, of course, no post-game show on CBS. So this is we want to bring in as many Iowa fans and interact with as many as possible this afternoon. So please share on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you social media, and help us to grow this show. A lot of, again, happy fans. I see a question here from Charles, and I'm not trying to pick on Charles. I don't really want to spend at least the outset of the show just kind of reflecting on what was an incredible finish. We can answer this question, though, Gary. Charles was in the chat earlier talking about some of the issues. He says, what do you tell your team after a win like that, given the issues with how your team played? And it is a short turnaround, as we mentioned.
Yeah, I think what we had just already talked about, that's those are the kind of games you're going to have to win to advance the NCAA tournament. There are going to be days when you're not playing as well as you're capable of playing, or shots aren't dropping, or bad fouls, or whatever the case may be. And you just got to find a way to get the W, and that's what they did. And I think the good news is they know they can play better, but you got to give Indiana some credit too. I mean, they're battling, and they've got some talent, and they did some things that caused some problems, and so to tell you the truth, I think it's exactly what you want to go through. Obviously, you don't want to lose, but I think it's a great experience to go through and struggle and find a way to survive. That's because that's going to happen again. It may happen tomorrow. It could happen in the first round of the tournament. And so having been through it and surviving it, that's a good experience to go through.
And I do want to ask you this. You alluded to, and I wanted to bring it up. I've always felt that as a fan, that I'd rather struggle and lose as a sort of a wake-up call for a team that maybe has gotten away with some bad habits. I still think that this team needs to get off to quicker starts. You can't fall down 15-3. And defensively, it wasn't their best game. But is there a lot of truth to that, just in a normal setting during the regular season throughout, that there is something to be said for winning tight games when you don't play well? Have you seen that as far as your experience, that it does sort of help your team without devastating it because of a potential loss?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any doubt. And I think you got to give credit to the opponent. I mean, the opponents can cause you problems. Indiana just beat a really good Illinois team. And so they're playing with a lot of confidence, and they're playing well. And that's a very good team that Iowa played today, and they'll cause you some problems, certainly with a guy in the middle. And defensively, they're committed to playing defense. And they do that pretty well. And so to be able to grind it out, so to speak, and stay the course when things aren't going your way, that's what good teams do. And that's what they did today. That's a great win, because that could have easily been a loss.
Can I just say this? I think Indiana's playing as well as anybody in this conference, and we can look at them as not a great offensive team, but can we agree on that, Gary? I thought they played very, very well today, and Trace Jackson Davis has taken his game to a completely different level this March. Yeah,
and they're playing hard. They're playing tough. They're playing every possession out, and that's where you got to start. It's the teams that take possessions off that don't usually advance, and they battled, and so did Iowa. And at times, Indiana took it to Iowa. I don't think there's any doubt. But to Iowa's credit, I think their experience won out a little bit, and they made some big shots from their big players, and just a great win.
Real Hayden says that's the kind of thing I was expecting to happen to us. Felt good to happen for us, and I'll say this: I was not expecting it to happen, Gary. It felt you've been Mr. Positive all week and saying they're going to win everything. Let's get a dose of honesty here from you, Gary. Not to say that you're never dishonest, but let's get a dose of honesty here for a second. How were you feeling with about 3 minutes to go, 3-4 minutes to go in the game?
Well, there was obviously some concern, but they were still within shouting distance. And this team can score points in a hurry. And Indiana has struggled to finish games all year, and that's part of a team maturing into a real good team is being able to finish the deal. And they've had some problems. They've had some teams on the ropes and haven't been able to finish games. And so I think between that and Iowa's ability to score, there were enough possessions left that if they made some plays, they could make it interesting. And that's exactly what they did.
Okay, I want to say this to our first caller here, and I did open the call lines. I want to keep our calls somewhat short because there are a lot of people on, and I'm sure a lot of people want to be able to talk and express their jubilation. So let's just keep our calls as concise as possible. Let's take our first one here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hello, Corey. It's the real MVP. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Did you even have to ask that question?
No, I feel it's almost a formality at this point, Gary.
Hey, listen, I'm just making sure the people who bet on me to be first get their money, get their even money payout, okay?
How did you – I know you were watching. How did you feel with about 3-4 minutes to go in the game?
Never in doubt. Never in doubt. Right, Coach Close, never in doubt.
You got that right.
Listen, Iowa can make threes. They're a hot team. The only thing I'm worried about is their interior defense.
Well, that's a concern. Yeah. They're going to be tested again if they get Purdue tomorrow with the interior defense.
Yeah, no question. Yeah.
Gary,
I thought their interior defense was more exposed from dribble penetration from the outside.
I agree wholeheartedly.
A lot of times it happened when they doubled the post, and now they're scrambling and they're flying out at shooters and they're just shot faking and driving around them. That's one of the things I don't like about doubling the post. It's 4-on-3 on the backside, and you're flying around and you give up all kinds of penetration and offensive rebounds and stuff like that. And I thought the best post defense they played was the last possession where they fronted the post and they tried to lob it and they got it and they got the charge. And that's the same thing as a double team. You're doing it before the ball gets in there. And I like that way. I thought that was a good adjustment. But like Corey said, if Purdue advances, then you got a load in there with two players.
Well, and the final thing I'll say is, can we give Patrick some love? I mean, he had 16 points. He didn't have a good first half, but I love the way he responded in the second half.
Yeah, that's a good thought. He did. He had some big shots to keep him within striking distance.
Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button.
Hey, come back tomorrow. We're going to have lots of coverage tomorrow, including the post game, and then, of course, my live bracket show. So be here tomorrow, Drill MVP.
Of course I'll be here tomorrow. I can't wait to talk about Vermont and Norfolk State and all these teams.
We will do it. Appreciate the call, man. Have a great day. All right. Let's get down to a couple. And I did see a couple people trying to call. Give us a call back if you have been trying to call and the line was busy. 515-635-1601 is our number. Got 150 people on here, so let's continue to build the audience after what was one of the greatest finishes in Iowa basketball recent history. I don't want to say Iowa basketball history because then you old buffs, Gary, not to say you're old, but I'm saying you old buffs will tell me, wow, you weren't around back during your Sweet 16 run, etc. But I'm living in the moment, and certainly during my lifetime, I don't recall at a bigger time. We've seen Jordan Bohannon hit a lot of game winners, Gary, regular season, unbelievable shots late. We've never seen anything in this type of a moment to win a game. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's exaggerating at all. Let's take our next call here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Lomansky, fellas.
How are you, sir?
All right.
Good. I try to beat the real, and I can't even do it when I make it a goal of mine. I can't get any of it.
Hey, you listen, you were born a certain way. You just got to accept that.
That's right. I play basketball that way. I was on the bench a lot. I move around to get opinions outside of the Hawkeye universe. And Seth Greenberg said something really interesting on Big Ten radio before the game, and I really have something to confirm his thoughts. But he said the Hawkeyes have an edge to them. And he said both McCaffrey's sons, and of course he said Keegan. And I've always liked when you have players that are coaches' sons. And I will tell you that I list Keegan Murray as a coach type, especially when Coach Williams on your show, Corey, called him the best fundamental player he ever sent to college basketball. And Corey, I just like to feed off of something you've said about slow starts. And Keegan Murray was 5 for 7 in the first half, and the rest of the team was 7 for 21. And I've said it before on your show, you got to know who your star is. And I know Indiana had something to do with that, but boy, when we go to Keegan Murray, you're hard to stop. And I'll feed it back to you for comments. But again, I really like Fran McCaffrey. I suffered through the Steve Alford era and the Licklider era. I'm probably the biggest Fran McCaffrey fan that ever was out there. So if you go back to the first half, and I wrote it down, the Hawks were down big time. And he got Connor McCaffrey in the game and called timeout, and that stopped the flow of the reversal the wrong way. And I'll listen until you hang up on me.
Gary, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they talk about early in the first half. He put 3 new guys in and down, I think 15-2 or somewhere in that area, and those guys got him back in it. Connor and Chris, and I'm trying to think, and then Joe. Those 3 came in and they kept Keegan on the floor and made a big run there. So that's what you need from your bench to come in and give a charge, and they did. And we've been talking about all year long, Corey. There's something about this team that just kind of tickles your fancy. They just find ways to win, and they just keep an even keel. I think that's the coaching staff deserves a lot of credit for that. They rebound well from losses and setbacks, and there's a maturity to them that you like. So, and this is a great experience to go through for what they're going to go through next week. Much better than a blowout win, although it might be easier on the fans. This is just what they need to get ready for next week. And so very, very, very big step today.
And this is, to me, let me just add to that, Lemansky, 2 things. You commented on Keegan Murray. I know that we live in the moment, and we shouldn't just look at the Big Ten tournament. I thought Keegan Murray was the Big Ten Player of the Year during the regular season, and he's proven in the tournament. You see Johnny Davis go, 3-19 the other night, and I know it's just one game, but Keegan has not let up since this tournament started. We're talking 3 straight days. To me, he's the best player in the Big Ten. Yes, I'm biased. I'll accept that. But the other thing about this too, Gary, I think your point is absolutely spot on, and I'll add to it by saying this team was writhing in confidence. We've talked about the confidence boost from guys like Tony Perkins, guys like Chris Murray, but now we're seeing with this win, I should expect to see an increase in confidence late in games because, Gary, we all talk about how dominant Iowa has been. And I saw a stat the other day, I have to pull it up on Twitter, but Iowa has not won a game by single digits since like January or maybe early February. That's great. That shows you're dominating, but it's a bit concerning. How do you close games? And Iowa just closed as well as you can close and just won a close game. I think you're spot on, Gary. And again, now they have the confidence, if it was ever lacking, to win a close one.
Yep. And that's the way it's going to be next week. They're just, that's what you just got to expect, that it's going to be one possession at a time. And so to be able to find a way when it didn't look real good is terrific. It's a big step, no doubt.
Two quick things. I find it very interesting. I'm a big Connor McCaffrey fan because I couldn't shoot the ball very well. But today, Connor took 2 shots. And if you notice the substitution pattern, especially towards down the stretch, Fran had his son Connor in the game to make sure that damn ball went where it's supposed to go, because the damn ball didn't go where it's supposed to go in the first half. Then I'd like you both to comment, and I'll hang up after I ask the question. Indiana's gone through a couple of coaches and floundering, and I've been listening to Whitson's post-game rhetoric, and I think Indiana's found a coach. I'd like both your opinion on Coach Woodson, too, but I'll hang up and listen to the show. Thanks for having the show all year.
Thanks, Lansky. Appreciate it. Your thoughts on Coach Woodson, Gary?
Yeah, he's done a great job. That team's much more competitive than they've been, much more committed on the defensive end. They play hard. I think they reflect his personality really well. And they had some tough setbacks, and yet they've continued to get better and had a great win over Illinois. So I'll be curious to see how they do in the NCAA tournament. They could be a tough out because they're playing real well right now and gaining some confidence. And this will be a great experience for them. I think the announcer said that they have not been in the NCAA tournament since 2016, which I find just unbelievable that an Indiana team hasn't been there in 6 years is just incredible. So hopefully they get in because they deserve to.
And Gary, we've talked about it. I brought it up, about a week ago. Who was it that we had on the show? It might have been J.R. Koch, but we talked about Indiana finding ways to lose games. And I compared them at the time to the Archie Miller era because they consistently found ways to lose games, especially late in the year and kind of wilted. And it looked like this team was going to be, or wilted, excuse me, I can't speak. It looked like this team found a way to kind of just completely reverse the roles. They started to sort of crumble. We think about that game at Wisconsin that they blew, that they had in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at what they've done in the Big Ten tournament. I think you got to give Coach Woodson a lot of credit because he's got a lot of the guys from, he's got a couple new faces in there. Xavier Johnson.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But boy, he's led these guys, and a lot of these guys are not guys he recruited, and they're in the tournament. No question about it. If anything, the performance today, I think, helps them.
No doubt. They very easily could have won that game and led the game for almost probably 38 out of the 40 minutes or 39 out of the 40 minutes. So, no, they've come a long way. And as you develop a team, that's a big step, is being able to finish games and win close ones and win when you're not playing real well. And those are all things, growing pains that they're going through that they're making progress on.
We do have another call here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, Corey, this is Vincent. How you doing today?
How do you think I'm doing, Vincent? I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I share the same sentiment. Just three quick things, and I'll hang up. I'm assuming the real MVP has a direct line or a president's line to you, or if he gets in first.
No, hey, listen, you could call. You could call as soon as this show launched, and you would not beat him to the. I'm heckling a little bit. I kudos to him. He's a true fan. Listen to his content, or listen to his calls. So kudos to him. But anyway, the three things you and I debated initially, kind of at the start of the season, about Keegan being a first round pick or lottery pick. I can't be more impressed with watching him, especially on the stage that they're on right now with the Big Ten tournament play being in Indianapolis. He has certainly solidified himself as being a lottery pick, and I think he just keeps increasing his stock. I mean, because he's just so consistent, so fluid. Just so impressed, watching him compared from the beginning of the season to what you see now. I honestly didn't think after Garza left that we'd probably see another type of player or caliber of player as a Garza anytime soon, but yet here we are in back-to-back seasons. You're looking at a Garza, now you're looking at Keegan, and just so impressed with watching his progression and his development. He's certainly earned everything that he's going to get. Secondly, and these are kind of questions for both of you guys, and then I'll hang up. First thing is these types of games, I think are invaluable to the players because it puts you in real game scenarios that help prepare you for tournament time, because you're going to run into this again as you start to make a run or you start tournament play. You're going to have games like this. So I think these games or types of games are incredibly invaluable because it gives you that experience to where you feel more comfortable in those types of game situations. So those are beneficial, but
The last thing is, my concern is when you make these deep runs, and as much as I enjoy watching the Big Ten tournament, when you make these deep runs, and I'm sure Coach Close would attest to, there's a lot of fatigue, a lot of wear and tear on the players. And this is the main concern I have is I hope we haven't burnt or will burn ourselves out before NCAA tournament time comes. I hope we're going to have that same type of energy, that same type of fast pace, or just that same kind of energy. I'll just leave it with that. How much of a true concern is that, Coach Close, going into the tournament? If you wouldn't mind elaborating on that. And gentlemen, thanks for the time.
Appreciate it, Vincent.
Yeah, I don't know. I think some coaches use that as an excuse. Usually the teams that make it to Sunday, they don't have them play until Friday. So that's 5 days to get ready. That's plenty. But even Thursday. So I don't even think you bring it up. Hey, we've had shorter turnarounds. I think the fact that you're playing 4 games in a row, that's a little bit of a concern because it's just one after another. So, but hey, that's where we're at right now. So we just let's see if we can't get a championship, and then we'll have time to get a little bit of rest, and it's better than the alternative. I'd rather be playing than watching it on TV. So. Hopefully they'll get a Friday draw by playing tomorrow and give them an extra day to get ready. But definitely when you've played 4 games in a row, especially these last 3 are going to be real battles. Fortunately, the first game we didn't have to expend a whole lot of energy and minutes played. It's definitely a concern. So hopefully we can get through that.
Gary, I'm not saying you're wrong, but that surprises me that you just said that usually if you play on Sunday, they'll schedule you for a Friday, Sunday. Because that dictates location then. I mean, there's not correct. I mean, there's not
Yep. That does. I think they'd like to if they could. Doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but it could be Thursday depending upon where the whole bracket works out. But I think if they had their druthers, they'd like to move that team back to Friday just because of the turnaround.
And I see Harpo, and can we address Harpo? He's being somewhat critical, and I understand it because people were on Patrick during the game. I saw it all over social media. He says Patrick is too slow and weak for the top of the press. He played too much in the second half, made big shots, but also gave up rebounds, turnovers, blow-bys. I don't think he's feeling great, Gary. It's just something about, he's dribbling into traffic, and sometimes he does that anyways, but to me, he looks a little off, and I just wonder, I hope I'm wrong, but you just wonder with his issues medically in the past, and he's on medication for his thyroid. I just worry. I'm slow to criticize. I mean, I understand being concerned with him defensively at times and turning the ball over. I am concerned more from a health standpoint that perhaps he's having some side effects that Fran and the team is kind of keeping under wraps.
Could be. Yeah, could be. He hit some big shots. I mean, he hit some huge shots, especially in the second half. He didn't play particularly well in the first. They had rebounding concerns all through their lineup at times today. I didn't think they cleaned the glass off a couple of times, or the Indiana just kind of outworked us. But he had some big shots and shots we needed, both in the first and second half. So hopefully he'll feel more healthier as the week goes on, because we need him. We need him to play well.
Merv says, Gary, were you relaxed?
Yeah. That's a bad question. I was.
Relax. I should have texted you as soon as he made that 3 and just said, relax, Gary.
I said it was in. I said, that's down. Boom.
You knew it as soon as it left his hand.
As soon as it left his hand, that thing's gone.
My question is, did he call glass on that?
I think he banked it straight in. I think that's what he was going for. That deep, you got to let it go.
Did he shoot it over Race Thompson? Who did he shoot it over? It wasn't Race Thompson. I believe it was
somebody that was right there. That was not an open shot. You can't defend that any better. That's a crazy thing.
And that last, what did you? This is kind of a random side point that I wanted to bring up. What were your thoughts on Iowa coming out in the defensive set? So initially, Fran deployed, I think, Keegan to guard the inbounds passer, and something changed. He calls timeout, and they end up sending Keegan deep. And it appears to have been the right call because they were able to force a short pass and basically a 3-quarter heave. Mm-hmm. What did you think of that decision, and what would dictate a timeout from Fran in that situation, changing things up?
Well, I think he saw the lineup and decided to make a change, and the change was taking him off the ball. I personally, I don't like taking a guy off the ball. I just think it's too easy to make a pinpoint pass, which is what you got to have in that moment to even have a chance to get a shot off. So, but it worked. So, hey, that's fine. I mean, he got a look, but fortunately it wasn't a great look. But I've seen it countless times where people are not on the ball and they just throw it. And then, the most famous one was the one to Leitner when nobody was on him, and the guy just threw a perfect strike right to him and he buries it. I don't like it. I like putting pressure on the ball. Because even in that case, up 3, even if they set a screen on him, he fouls him, it's only 2 shots. So, but they got it done. So that's the most important thing.
Amber has a question for you, Gary. She says, should I let my husband drive to Indianapolis to support the Hawks?
Absolutely. That's a no-brainer.
That's a slam dunk, right? What do you think it'll be like tomorrow? I watched part of Purdue Penn State. We'll of course get a look at Purdue and Michigan State today. But if Purdue wins, but for the record, can we all agree that Iowa fans should probably be rooting for Michigan State? I think Iowa matches up better with MSU than Purdue. Can we agree with that, Gary? Yeah,
I'd say that's probably a good point.
But assuming Purdue wins, what do you anticipate the crowd being? Were there a lot of Purdue fans there yesterday?
There'll be a lot of Purdue fans there. If they play and if they get in the championship game, there'll be a ton of Purdue fans there. You bet.
Yeah. So that's certainly Iowa got I don't know that they'll be. I give credit to those Indiana fans, and I don't know how the ticket purchasing worked. Like, are they buying a bunch of tickets as Indiana's winning these games? Because if not, man, Indiana gobbled a lot of them up early.
Oh yeah, as the teams get knocked out, they want to get rid of their tickets, and that's where they swooped in. When we played in Indianapolis in 2006 and 15, in the national championship game against Duke, it was 75%, and this is in the football stadium. It was 75% Wisconsin fans. They just came down from Madison, bought them all up. It's a 5-hour drive. And all those teams that lose are getting rid of their tickets, and so that'll be the case tomorrow. There'll be a lot of Purdue. If Purdue wins, there'll be a lot of Purdue people in there. I can almost guarantee it.
Question here from Kelly. She says, "Is Trace Jackson Davis going pro?" My simple answer would be, I don't know why he wouldn't at this point. I don't think his stock's going to grow that much, Gary, because he does struggle to shoot the ball from outside, but he is playing as well as I think he's ever played down low.
Yeah, that's a good question. My guess is he's going to go. Although I think he needs another year. I think he's got to develop a perimeter game. The way the NBA game is now, there's athletes like that all up and down lineups. He's a terrific player. He's got some talent, but I think his game's got to expand to give him a better chance of surviving. It's that second contract in the NBA. It's the big one. But I would guess he'll probably go, and he'd probably be a fairly high pick because of his potential.
Grant says, most amazing game I've ever seen. Now, judging from Grant's picture, he looks like a young man. But I love that, Gary. I don't think that's exaggerating at all. And that's what March is all about. You said it as soon as we hopped on here together. This is absolutely what March is about. And we've seen it across. It's just weird. What happens in March? Why does it always seem to work out this way where teams start making unbelievable shots to win games? Why March?
Well, I think it's the one and done thing where if you lose, you're gone, and so it makes those kind of shots even more exciting. It's to me, it's still the greatest sports event that you can watch, and there's some great ones that we've got that we're fortunate as a country to have, but there's nothing like the NCAA tournament, even league tournaments at the end of the year. It's just a blast to watch.
I really hope people, not to take us on a solemn note, but I really hope people here appreciate the tournament more than ever this year. I keep calling you Mark for some reason, Gary. I really hope they appreciate it this year, Gary, because, we are fortunate in this part of the world to be able to enjoy basketball. And I feel for the people, certainly in Europe that are suffering right now and just across the globe that aren't able to enjoy this, and it keeps things in perspective. And so great moment. Nothing wrong with enjoying it, but certainly keeping things in perspective is important. I love the Kramer picture, the Kramer picture in Jeff's profile here. I can see that's a portrait of Kramer.
Oh, yeah,
So
it does look like that.
He says, any word on Ulyss's absence yesterday? I don't have anything. There was, you had mentioned, Gary, that perhaps there was some illness traveling through the team at some point. He did play briefly, but I don't believe he played in the second half. So I don't want to speculate one way or the other. I guess I can just say I have not heard anything.
Yeah, I haven't either. And it's the time of year where you do have illnesses, the flu or whatever it can happen on college campuses. And, Patrick was under the weather. So that would be my guess, but who knows? Maybe got a little banged up in a practice or something, but it was good to see him get a few minutes. So it looks like he's on his way back to being able to play a little bit more.
Alan says, after the drought of March wins we've had for some time now, this feels equal to the Steve Waite moment emotionally, and I was around for that. More to come. Hopefully, Alan, you are spot on. Our call line, I apologize for getting rid of our little banner. I forget that when I don't have that banner up there, people think the call line is down. It's up. It's open right now. 515-635-1601 is the number. 515-635-1601. And Vincent brings this up. He says, a great lesson and experience for tournament play. Would rather have been put in this type of game for the experience to fall back on when March Madness comes. And it's exactly what you alluded to earlier, Gary. You just couldn't be happier for Jordan Bohannon and this team being able to escape a game like this. Vincent does say, too, tournament time worries me. And maybe he brought this up on his call. But is there any question that you'd prefer to win? You don't ever prefer to lose, right? You're not going to, we want an early exit so we have time to prepare for the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's not a thing, is it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if it happens, then, hey, great. It gives us a little more time to get ready. I think going through this and winning it or getting into the championship game is, they're going to remember it. They're going to remember that shot. They're going to remember this whole experience. And if they can find a way to win tomorrow, that's championship. And we talked about it. To win the tournament this year with as strong as this league has been this year and the great players that are in it will be a great accomplishment for this team. And I think it will only help us in the NCAA tournament. There is some concern about fatigue, but hopefully we can get through that.
Absolutely. And I want to bring up for a second the play from Connor McCaffrey, because, we talked about confidence building earlier, specifically with Tony Perkins, and I brought up Chris Murray as well. But, I don't know what Connor went today. Maybe he was 1 of 3. I guess I can grab that stat. See, Connor from 3 was actually 0-2. I thought he hit a 3 today. I know he had a big 3 yesterday to help mount a comeback versus Rutgers. But just having him be back there, and I would have to think that's showing up on tape for opponents, and it's showing up on scouting. How important is it to be able to go into tournament play? Well, we're already into tournament play, but specifically March Madness, with Connor being a threat from back there? How does that change how opponents defend Iowa?
Well, it's just one less guy they can help on Keegan and the other players on the team. It spreads their defense out just a little bit more. So my guess is teams may let him make one in the tournament just because of the track record. But lately he's been making it pay for it. So hopefully that'll be the case again.
Eric says, I'd call in sometime, but the long distance bill from South Dakota would be terrible. Who pays long distance bills anymore? Gary?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
Come on, Eric. Get us.
That's weak. That's like a couple of
long distance call. Isn't it worth a long distance call to be able to talk to us, Gary?
Sure. My goodness. How often do you get a chance to talk to Corey Braddock?
Yeah. Thank you very much for drawing attention to that, Gary. Okay. I see a lot of comments I'm trying to get caught up on. Good to see Donna here. Good to see Dennis here as well. Everybody, again, celebrating at 250 people on right now. Charles has a question to comment. Coach, well, he says that you're 2 people. He says, Coach Close and Gary. It was said that Roberta has been solid, but I have to say he's been solidly inconsistent. You still feel the same way in your thoughts on if we have Purdue tomorrow? He's playing out of position, Charles. That's all I'll say. He is not a 5, and they're doing what they can with him. And I'm not knocking any, Riley Mulvey, I think maybe he's 18 years old. He should be a senior in high school right now. He's reclassified. You hope he develops. Gundele has struggled from a developmental standpoint. They're doing what they can with what they have. And I think Rebraca is very much underappreciated. And I still stand by that despite the day from Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One is, Davis is really good, and he's made a lot of people look bad. It wasn't one of Phillips' better games. He struggled today. I don't think there's any doubt. I think his minutes reflected it. And that's, as you develop, especially big guys just, they're up and down. And there's no question he's gotten better, and he's given him some good minutes in some games. And so you got to go with him, and hopefully he'll continue to improve. But that was a handful today, and it'll be a handful tomorrow, but he's battled. I think he's shown some progress. Like you said, he's definitely undersized, but you can't question his heart. And so hopefully, hopefully he can play a little bit better here coming down a stretch, but which he has. Today was not one of them. I didn't think he played particularly well today, but it wasn't a lack of effort. He had a handful in the guy he was guarding. The kid's long, and he's quick. He's athletic. He gets off the floor amazingly fast. It's just it's a tough guard for anybody.
Gary, can you address real quickly, specifically as it relates to Trace Jackson Davis? And I can pull the stats up. I believe 31 and 10 on an efficient night. I mean, he just was nearly unstoppable. In hindsight, again, you win this game, we can talk more comfortably about this. What did you see during the game? How would you have adjusted given his big first half?
Well, I think he got, like we talked about earlier, I think he got too many easy baskets where he was just point blank. If he makes a tough 5, 6, 7 footer, then hey, more power to him. But he just had too many shots right around the rim. He had some second chance shots where he didn't get him checked out. And he's a handful to check out because he can really get up, and he's quick. I like the way they played him at the end, trying to front him, making it harder for him to even touch the ball. And they got help from the weak side. That's where they got the charge. I like that. One of the things I don't like about Dublin is a lot of times in Dublin, it looks like you just let the ball in the post too easy, and he gets it too deep. And when he gets it in that deep, he's hard to guard. So fortunately, we were able to guard the rest of the guys enough that we were able to survive. He was really good. He was really good today. But he's done that to some other people too.
My thinking on this, and maybe you're going to tell me I know nothing, because I know next to nothing. I don't know nothing, but I know next to nothing. So specifically when I'm seeing Iowa trap, the one thing I was critical of watching it was it seemed like if we're gonna try to double and then trap, come hard. Come aggressively at him. And because we saw he's not a great passer. Again, he's not Hunter Dickinson, but he made some plays when that double came because I don't think Iowa was coming hard enough. Is there substance to that?
Yeah, they had a couple underneath the basket where they were late getting there that he dumped off for, wide open layups. There's two rules of thought. Do you go right away, or you go after he makes a dribble so that he can't, then he's doesn't have a way to escape, with the dribble. I think a couple of times there were instances where it was a little hesitant as to when exactly to go. It's not easy to do. I mean, it's not an easy, it's a real hard thing to duplicate in practice. And of course, they didn't have much practice, obviously, with one game after the next. But I like the way they did it at the end, where they just fronted him, didn't let him get it, and then make him lob it over the top and get help from the backside. That's where they got that charge, and make him work more to get the ball. Not let him get it so easily. But he played well. I mean, he sometimes they just play better than you play, and he was really good.
What did you think about the on-ball defense from Iowa? You talked about dribble penetration, and I remember this conversation that I had with you, and now we're kind of transitioning to the how would we clean some things up. So I don't want to sound like I'm being negative, but remember the Penn State game in State College. Iowa allowed a lot of dribble penetration in that game, which didn't make a whole lot of sense because Penn State's not a great three-point shooting team. And I kind of felt the same way in this game. I got Miller Kopp, who is a three-point shooter, but other than Miller Kopp, nobody really scares me from three on this Indiana team. And I'm just confused. Iowa's got some really good individual defenders: Keegan Murray, Chris Murray, Tony Perkins, Joe Toussaint primarily. And you can argue Connor McCaffrey. But I watch over and over again. I'm not picking on JT or Tony, but those guys seem to hug ball handlers, and it results in blow-bys. And Tony and Joe are plenty quick to stay in front of Isaiah Johnson or Xavier Johnson, whoever it may be. Do you see the same thing? I felt like Iowa, those dribble drives were a result of too much pressure on the outside the arc.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it also happened a lot when they were closing out, sometimes out of a double team situation, sometimes at a dribble penetration where you're helping recovering, and they're closing out of control to where, all their momentum was going at the defender, and he just kind of goes around. But the other thing it's hard to do. It's the hardest thing to do defensively is to stay in front of the ball. The offense has got an advantage. They know where they're going. And so what you want to do is you want to not get beat point blank where it's just right down the lane. You want to, I guess I describe it as fanning them out towards the corners to where they're not getting immediate penetration. One of the things we always said that if we can see your numbers, if you're guarding the ball and we can see your numbers from the sideline, you're in bad position because you're completely opened up and now the lane is wide open. And so maybe see one number if you got two in the back, but you've got to angle them, fan them, kind of absorb them towards the corners rather than opening completely up and then letting them just do more straight line drives rather than angle drives. And I think that's where they got hurt. There were a lot of straight line drives today that really hurt, not only hurt Iowa in terms of giving up good shots, but then hurt their offensive rebounding because now you got to rotate and it leaves guys open on the backside to go in and rebound. So it's an area that they've constantly worked on this year, but all teams do. It's a hard thing to teach, hard thing to grasp. But they got to get better at it because I think that's where they got a lot of points in the paint, that as well as dumping into the post. And if you're given a lot of point blank shots around the basket, your defense is going to suffer.
And I texted you one word at the end of the first half, and I just said zone. And the reason I said that is because I thought Iowa got a little bit too happy with that zone because it worked yesterday. But Indiana seemed to attack the zone better. Am I right in saying that? They seem to attack and be able to kick to open shooters better.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, zones like yesterday it worked. I think it kind of caught them by surprise a little bit. I think the longer you play it, most of the time teams start to get comfortable and how to attack it. And it's just, I don't know if it's a defense that you can play for long periods of time. Now, Iowa plays it, under their basket all the time. That's just a philosophy they have. And, to prevent giving up easy shots on out of bounds plays. And then they play it through that possession. I didn't think their zone was particularly good today either. So that's going to be something to watch tomorrow because now you're playing your fourth game. And, if there's fatigue, that's where it shows up. It shows up on the defensive end where you get blown by and you're late to rotating and things like that. So that's going to be something to watch is can they keep the ball out of the paint? Because if either team they play is capable of hurting them in the paint, and as most teams are. And so that'll be something to watch for tomorrow.
And our caller who just tried to call and then hung up, call back. I don't know what happened there, but feel free to give us a call back. All Thumbs is calling you Mark as well. He says, question for Mark. Does J-Bo come back for one more year?
I don't know if the NCAA is going to allow that.
Got to be a loophole, right, Gary? There's got to be a loophole. Let's take our next call here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
This is Pat from Minnesota.
Hey, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
And just wanted to mention, I saw I missed the first part of the show. I can still hardly talk after that game, but I've been on the phone with some Iowa fans. But my point was, I thought during the game was, I thought Indiana looked so much better, the finesse they had, the way they worked it underneath. And I just was thinking, geez, we live by the sword and die by the sword with a 3-point shooting. We just weren't that great at the beginning of the game. And so I kept thinking maybe Sanford should be put in the game. We'll see more of him during the game. But obviously, Fran knows more about his players than I do because they certainly pulled it out at the end. That's basically all I wanted to say. But be anxious to hear what everybody else knows and what you guys think of the game. And I hope I missed, like I said, I apologize. I missed for the first part of your show.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
you thought something, Gary?
Yeah, no, I think so. Sanford played a little bit in the first half. And I think from a defensive standpoint and experience and a tight game, I think you just want to go with the veterans, and I get it. If he had knocked down a few shots and got hot or something, you might have seen him a little bit more. But I think he just went with the experience and the better defenders. Although I like the way that kid's playing. He's getting better. I think he's got a chance to be really good, as we've talked about.
It kind of reminds me, now this is before both of your times, but when I was in college there was Jimmy Rogers played guard. And he looks at me a lot like Jimmy Rogers, who went on in the NBA as well. But he's got a beautiful jump shot, and certainly reminds me a lot. I think he might be a little bit quicker. I'm sure he's probably quicker than Rogers was, but he certainly reminds me of that because I don't know. Maybe you think differently, but I think he's got a great looking jump shot.
Yeah, he does. I would agree with that. Now he's got to add things to his game. I think he's got to become a better passer. Because he was a good shooter, then he's going to draw a lot of attention, and that's where that's what J-Bo does well. He finds people when when they're open, and so he's got to add that to his game. Got to become a defender. All the things young kids have got to get better at. But I like his confidence. I like his his ability to not be afraid to to put it up, and he's got good size, pretty good athlete. So I think he's got a chance.
He's got a lot of rebounds.
Yeah. No, I think he's got a chance. And a lot of, how hard he works this summer and adding things to his game, it's going to be real important.
The big concern I have now for Iowa in the NCAA tournament is how do we stop somebody at center like that? I mean, it seems to me like that's been kind of a weak spot all year, but just like to hear what you think about that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a concern. Now, this league has got a lot of them this year, and depending on their matchups, they might not get a great center for a few games. But then on the other hand, Iowa's a tough team to guard. I mean, they've got some players on their side that are going to cause a lot of sleepless nights for teams that are going to play them. So the good news is we've had experience playing against real good centers. So it's not going to be something that we haven't seen before. The centers in this league are as good as any in any league. So
that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
We've had a chance to go up against some good players. So we'll be ready if that's the case in the tournament.
And what do you think about, are we going to be tired tomorrow, especially on 3-point shots? It seems to me like that's going to affect Iowa more than a team that doesn't rely so much on the outside shooting.
It could. You lose your legs, that could definitely affect your shooting. I don't think there's any doubt. It looks like the longer this tournament goes on, the shooting goes down. And fatigue is something to do with that. I don't think there's any question. So it's one of those games where you just got to find a way.
And one of the points you made that I keep thinking about is you were right on when you said that a lot of times the advantage, or at least most of the time, I think you said the advantage goes with a team that plays their first game, and then they play a team that's coming in the next night that's playing their first game, and that worked very well for Indiana. So
yeah, no doubt. No, exactly.
Yeah.
And it seemed to work well for Iowa against Rutgers. It did not work well for Northwestern against Iowa.
That's right. Exactly right. So anyway, well, thanks again for the show. Appreciate it.
Pat.
You bet, Pat.
All good points. And the I'm going to come back to the Sanford comment here in a second, but Spaghetti Factory, I have to read this because it's a super chat. Thank you for the super chat donation there, Spaghetti Factory. He says, can we get an oink oink? So appreciate that. The rules are I have to read it if you submit it. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Am I missing something there, Gary?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I must be sitting low in my chair. That's going over my head.
Okay. Appreciate that, though. Thank you, Spaghetti Factory. I do want to see here. It says, Lemansky says, Gary, only KG had a good first half. Patrick was 7 for 11 from the field. 2 for 2 foul line, folks. Gary, comment, please. Sick of negativism today.
I'm not exactly sure.
So
what he's getting at there.
So I think he's implying that Patrick also had a good first half. And are we calling Keegan Murray KG because
is that what that is? Oh, okay. That's what I wasn't sure about. Yeah, no, I think we struggled. I don't think there's any doubt we struggled. He wasn't. There was I was up and down the lineup. As I mentioned earlier, 3 minutes ago, our guards haven't played well today, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 they finished the deal. So I think some of that might have been third game. I think some of it was Indiana. I mean, I thought they played really well and hard and physical and smart and you're gonna have stretches of games where you don't look good. So that's what's exciting is we had that and still found a way to win.
What do you think of the officiating today, Gary?
I don't know. I didn't think it was unbelievable. There were some bad calls, but I think there were some bad calls both ways. So I didn't think either team got a huge advantage from the officiating.
I'm surprised. I didn't realize that so many fans, the Rutgers fans, were upset about the officiating yesterday. I mean, I understand there was some players tossed and coaches tossed and whatnot for both teams, but did you think, going back to yesterday's game, I was surprised when I went to social media how many Rutgers fans were just ticked at Bo Borowski.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, for all the fans, you sit there on the bench and you're like, man, we are just getting screwed today. And then you go back and watch it on the tape, and I'm going to tell you 90% of the time you watch it, you go, you know what? That wasn't so bad. They got a tough job, and I'm not trying to bail officials out. Fans love to get on officials, and officials have bad games too. I mean, there's no question. But I can tell you from experience, going back and looking at a lot of tape, most of the time when I go back and look at it, the officiating is as bad as what I thought when I was watching it live.
Always keeping us in perspective, telling us to relax, Gary. I appreciate that. Michael, this is a great question for you, Gary, being a former recruiter. He says, do games like this attract recruits?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I mean, this is a CBS nationally televised game. This is a big deal. Tomorrow, it's going to be the only game on other than I think the Ivy League has got their championship and maybe one other. It's the college game of the day. In fact, it is the college game. It's at 2:30, I think, or whatever. And so it's the game of the day. So, no, I think and then the way they played and the way they pulled it out, sure. It certainly doesn't hurt. And in a lot of cases, it does help.
People are always more generous when Iowa wins, and that's why I appreciate everybody's generosity today, because it's a double dose. So thank you, BJ, for this donation. The super sticker with BJ Sauerbray. I'm probably pronouncing your last name incorrectly, sir, but thank you so much for that. I did get a kick out of one of these comments here, Gary. Let me see if I can find it. I love all the comments here, but it just becomes harder and harder for me to navigate and be able to time things correctly so that we're not taking things
That's
out.
why you're making that big money. Come on, let's go.
I know. I'm failing as the donations come in here. So Aaron does. I'll just get to this comment first. Aaron says Iowa had to crowd the interior, make Indiana beat them from 3 because of how out of position Rebraca was in this game. And if you look at Indiana from 3, do you want to guess what they shot from 3? And I'll tell you, Gary.
I don't think it was very good.
Yeah, they shot 26% from 3, 5 and 19. There's no question. We're complimentary. This is a great win, but Iowa's got to play better half-court defense because
I thought at times we were actually too extended. I think it would have been better if you watched how Michigan State played Johnny Davis yesterday and how they crowded him and had people in the gaps. He had nowhere to go, and that kid has had more clean drives to the basket of anybody in the league, maybe other than Keegan. And they just dared Wisconsin to shoot it from 3, and they really don't have anybody other than Brad Davis that can do it consistently. And it was a huge reason why he went 3 for 19 is the guy's off the ball, because you're going to get beat off the dribble. I mean, it's going to happen. You hopefully you don't get just beat like a drum to where it's just right down the lane line, direct line to the basket. So you got to have help, and you can't have help on the same side where the guy's driving, because usually coaches are going to put their best shooter there. And then if you help off of them, then the guy hits a 3. So you got to get it from the backside, and you got to crowd as as much as you can to cut those driving lanes down. And I thought a lot of K-State, we were scrambling, and it left us vulnerable to some dribble penetration. And if you're going to beat defenses, you got to beat it with penetration. And that either comes from the dribble or from the pass. And we got to do a better job of that tomorrow, as well as going into the tournament.
And I have more confidence in Iowa being able to fix some of those issues, even though it's a quick turnaround, because they have been playing better defense. There have been games where they've allowed that penetration and they're scrambling. But this is probably the worst performance defensively that we've seen in a while from Iowa. Is that fair?
At times, at other times it was decent. But I think for the number of possessions in a 40-minute game, it wasn't as good as it's been. And I think that's part of the reason why the game was close. But Indiana's got some quickness. They can cause some problems. I just thought at times we were a little too extended. I think we respected their threes a little bit too much. And it's a tough call because you don't want to give up wide open threes, but they're not a great 3-point shooting team. Capable, but not great. But they are good at driving and posting up, and I thought we got hurt a little bit there.
Aaron says, what does it do for Iowa's seeding in the tournament if they win the tournament? I said a long time ago, basing this off a conversation that we had with the bracketologist Tim Kruger, I think that the ceiling is a 5 seed. I don't see Iowa getting to a 4. I think they probably are a 5. Now that they're in the championship round, I know Mike DeCourcy of Fox has Iowa as a 5. Even before this win, Joe Lunardi had Iowa as a 5. Jerry Palm finally has Iowa up to a 7. I don't know why he's so low on the Hawks. I think they're probably a 5, Gary, whether they win or lose tomorrow. I think they're playing with house money. I think there should be a whole lot of pressure on this performance tomorrow because they're just playing great ball heading into the tournament.
Yeah, it's hard to call. Usually tournaments don't affect it a whole lot. Now, if they were to beat Purdue tomorrow, then maybe it might, depending on how some other people finish up. But I think we've talked about, you want to get as high as you can get, and then, hey, time to play. I mean, if you advance, you're going to be playing great teams anyway. So it's just a matter of time when you do it. So, but they're playing how they want to play going into a tournament. So it's hopefully going to be a fun time.
And again, I promise I'm going to read every super chat that comes in because we do appreciate the super chats. And now that we are able to have super chats because we're well over 1,000 subscribers, we appreciate that. Nick says, "Can you ban Spaghetti Factory? He's a troll." So Spaghetti Factory. I apologize if that's offensive to you. If you were trying to troll, I still appreciate the donation. Let's see here. Lemansky says Patrick is a matchup advantage most games. Do you agree with that, Gary?
Matchup advantage in terms of his offensive skill?
I would guess so.
I think at times, yeah. No, he's. I think at times that can be an advantage. I think it depends on who he's matched up against. But yeah, especially if he's got a smaller guy on him, because Patrick's long and 6'9", that can definitely be an advantage. So, yeah, I'd agree with that.
And in answer to Casey's question here, I do think you want to play Michigan State. We've mentioned that earlier. Thomas says, why do they award the Big Ten Player of the Year before the Big Ten tournament is over? Valid question.
I think they've always done it at the end of the year. I think partly because, they want everything to be even. Some team goes on a long roll in the tournament, then they get 3 extra games. And I think they like to have the announcement prior to the tournament. It's kind of a nice time to do it and reward everybody. And it came down to Wisconsin winning the league. That's the reason why Davis got it. I don't think there's any question that Keegan is certainly a Player of the Year worthy player for sure. It's just Wisconsin won the league and Iowa didn't, and I think that's probably the deciding factor. They both had unbelievable years.
Charles says, Corey, then why are you playing Rebrache at the 5 all season? Let a Gundelay play and develop, like putting a running back at the quarterback position. Just my thoughts. I can understand, but big men, no. I couldn't disagree more, Gary, or Charles, and then Gary, I know you feel the same way. Right now, Rebrache has been by far the best option for Iowa at the 5. Yes, he's playing out of position. But if Iowa was trying to play Josh Agundale 25 to 30 minutes a game, I don't think this team would be anywhere close. I think Rebraca has been a big part of their success. And again, this is why he's underappreciated in my book. He's had a lot of games where he's put up 10 and 9, and he's battling down there.
Yeah.
I think that's being a bit unfair to Philip Rebraca.
I think it's more he's undersized at his position. He's going to have to develop his game to play the 4 because he doesn't have much of a perimeter game. And he can be more effective at the 5, but I think the other 2 guys just aren't ready. I think they've gotten moments where they've had a chance and they're just not ready to play extended minutes. And I do think Philip has improved as the year's gone on. He is an undersized 5 that's doing the best he can. Those are the cards you're dealt with. And the other 2 guys, I know they think highly of the big kid, Mulvey. I think they think he's got a chance to be a player. He's what is he, 17? I mean, he should be in high school. So it's a big jump to go from high school to college, even if you go all the way through high school, much less take it a year before. So he's just not ready. And I think the other kid's not quite ready either. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop. But I think Philip has hung in there in a tough situation and hasn't been a lack of effort. And I think at times he has shown good progress. So defense is a five-man game. He needs help as well, especially against players like he was playing against today. Those are really good players.
And an answer to, I see a comment here from Wilbur. There is no chance at a 1 or a 2. I'm sorry to burst that bubble. I'm not picking on you, but that's just not. There's just too much emphasis for people that think there's that much emphasis on the conference tournaments. Any of them, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe they get to a 4, Gary. Maybe, and I still don't. I still wonder. Now, Joe Lunardi, I saw had Iowa, I think 3 spots out of the final 4 seed, which is very intriguing because Joe Lunardi has certainly been doing it a long time. But he and Tim obviously disagree to some point. So I don't, it's not like the women's where you're going to, automatically be at home for top 4 seed. And certainly Iowa, my guess is they're not going to be anywhere around here. My guess is Milwaukee is not off the table, but it's unlikely from what I understand. Wisconsin will likely be higher.
Wisconsin will be in Milwaukee.
They'll get Milwaukee and maybe Iowa can get Indianapolis. I think they're proving that they know how to play in Gainbridge Field.
Yeah, I think Purdue's going to get Indianapolis. I think that's where they're going to be. Yeah, so
I'm
guessing Iowa's going to be somewhere else other than those 2 spots.
Yeah, Buffalo or San Diego, maybe Portland.
You'd like to go to San Diego, wouldn't you?
What's that?
Are you going to go out to San Diego?
I do have some family out in San Diego. I got family in Oceanside, which is not far. So it's a good question. We've had those discussions.
Hey, you only live once. Come on.
I know. I don't know that would be
take some of that big money you're making and put it into a plane ticket and head out to San Diego. You can have a little beach time and basketball. Beach and basketball. How can you be?
No, you're right. This time of year, Gary, San Diego's beautiful. San Diego's beautiful. Are you going to San Diego if they get there?
I don't know. Maybe.
So what city have you and your wife talked about what cities you'd be willing to travel to? Because there's 8 locations, of course. Have you talked about that yet?
We've a little bit. Yep. We'll see where they end up and what day and whether our son's going or not. That'll be a factor probably, but we'll see.
How does that work with the student managers?
Well, they've got a bunch of them. It's usually by seniority. So he's on the low end of the totem pole. So he did get to go to he is at the Big Ten tournament. So that's cool. And he's having a blast, as you can imagine. And we'll see. Maybe he'll get to go, maybe not. But it's been a fun year for him.
Appreciate this from BJ, the compliment. And
real nice.
Fred says, do you think that Connor will come back or should come back next year? I think yes to both, but your thoughts, Gary?
I would agree with that. I think they would welcome with open arms.
Absolutely. And let's take our final call before I'm going to cut you loose, Gary. I'm going to stay on here a while longer because we got a lot of people here who want to talk Hawks. I'm going to cut you loose and let you get back to your Saturday and catch the second half of Purdue, Michigan State. Let's take our next call, though. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
This is Ken.
Hey,
Hi,
Ken.
Ken.
Hey, just a couple questions or comments. I wanted you to comment on the lack of Peyton Sanford today. He seems to be like instant threes when he comes on. And then also, what do you think the dynamics of the team would be if Joe Wieskamp had hung around one more year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think with Peyton, we talked about a little bit. I think he kind of rolls the dice with him. If he sees him knock a few down, then he kind of goes with him a little bit longer. I think today it was more the fact that they were behind him with more experience and especially on the defensive end. So he's got to stay ready because he could be a factor in the tournament, especially if he were to get hot. And Joe, boy, that would be another weapon. Holy cow! I mean, you can only imagine with a shooter like that on the perimeter and the ability to take the ball to the hoop. That would be dangerous. I'd like to wondered all year long if Jack Nunge had been on this team, what they would be like, because that's one area that they don't have a lot of depth and size. So, which leads to the final comment being that what a year they've had with all they've lost. They lose 4 starters. They lose Nunge too. A couple guys are playing in the NBA, and they're picked 9th, and all they're doing is playing the Big Ten championship game today. That's just a terrific season for the staff and the team. It's a memorable year.
Anything else, Ken?
Oh, that's it. Take care, guys.
Appreciate the call, Ken. No, great question. And may I just finish with this before we cut you loose, Gary? You alluded to it, but let's just play hypothetical here. Garza comes back for an extra year because he could have come back technically. Wieskamp comes back. Frederick comes back and stays healthy. Nunge comes back. I don't know. First of all, they would not have been. I mean, from a depth perspective, that there would not have been. Somebody would have not been getting minutes. I mean, that's just, you don't have enough minutes to go around.
Right.
But I mean, what would have been the ceiling given Keegan and Chris's development and Tony's development?
Yeah. Well, you don't know if they would have developed like they did because they wouldn't have the opportunities that they've had. I mean, that's the hypothetical. I'd say that for all 3. Now, maybe Keegan would have done it, but the other 2 probably, who knows? There's just a lot of less minutes out there if all those guys are back. It's kind of a neat thing to think about. I mean, and that's how much talent they lost. And to do what they've done with that much talent lost is really remarkable. I bet there's not, I don't know, but other than maybe Wisconsin, there's very few teams in this country that have lost what they've lost and done what they've done. Fran should get some votes for Coach of the Year. I don't know if he will, but he should.
For National Coach of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be something if Fran does not get Big Ten Coach of the Year, Keegan does not get Big Ten Player of the Year, and yet both of them win the national awards?
That would be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
And is that awarded after March Madness?
It's awarded. Yeah, it's awarded.
Okay.
I know it's handed out at the Final Four, so it's sometime before the Final Four.
I think that's got to be in consideration. If Iowa gets to the Sweet 16, wins tomorrow, I think that he absolutely should be in consideration.
Yeah, I don't know when the vote is actually taken. It may have already been taken, but I know it's not announced until the Final Four.
All right, Coach.
Davis won it. Coach Davis won it his first year at Iowa.
And that's probably the last time that it's happened, to be my guess.
I'm guessing you're probably right on that.
Wow, that's astounding. I'd have to look back. Maybe Alford got it one year. I again.
Well, it's a tough award to get. It's one coach. I mean, it's hard to. That's why if Keegan could pull us off and get Player of the Year, can you imagine getting 2 Players of the Year back to back? I mean, that's just unheard of. It may have never been done before.
Let's remember what the women have done with Megan Gustafson, Caitlin Clark, and we always forget Kathleen Doyle was the Big Ten Player of the Year in between those 2 ladies. This has been
a great winner of basketball. Yeah, there's no question.
All right, Gary, we will plan on.
We'll see you tomorrow to talk about a championship.
Yep, we'll stay with you, but we'll cut you loose, Gary, and we'll talk tomorrow after hopefully a win and a championship.
We'll celebrate a championship tomorrow. I'll look forward to it.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate the time. And absolutely, I'm going to hang out here as long as people are willing to talk. because this is certainly a momentous day. And Ralph, question, I'm going to answer your question here. I'd like to know how many points in the paint we had today. Here are the numbers. 50 points in the paint for the Hoosiers, 24 for the Hawks, and yet Iowa found a way. And Gary Close is absolutely correct. Iowa's got to figure out a way to better dribble penetration. I mean, the zone was not working in that first half. Iowa went more man-to-man in the second, but I still think they were a bit over-aggressive on ball handlers, and that's going to come back to bite you against the likes of Jaden Ivey and some of the talent that offensive talent that Purdue has. Let's remember, Indiana, although they're playing great ball, does not have the athletes or the offensive talent that a team like Purdue has. Purdue, you could argue, is the best offense in the league. If it's not Iowa, it's Purdue. Now they struggle defensively, but that team will blow by you if you're not sound fundamental in your defensive stance. So yeah, that's got to get cleaned up. I do want to get down to this super chat. Let me find it. Don't want to forget it before it disappears. Spaghetti Factory, whether you're trolling or not, I appreciate the super chat. He says, go to the Iowa tourney games. Come on. I don't believe you're. Listen, I might be wrong. I don't believe Spaghetti Factory is trolling at all. Maybe I am dead wrong. Spaghetti Factory has been here. He's been a loyal listener on Mark Rogers' football channel. So thank you for that super chat, Spaghetti Factory, and for your previous super chat. So, all right, let's run through a couple of these other questions and comments. I don't want to forget anybody. Let's see. Tim the Tap Man, I saw his comment about the Murray twins and going to the same high school with him. That's a cool story, and certainly both of those guys have an opportunity to be able to play at the next level. We're seeing that pitch. J-Bo for Prez, best player we've seen in Iowa for a long time. I'm assuming you're talking about Keegan. J-Bo is no question about it, the most clutch player that I've ever seen at Iowa. You could argue, I mean, I wasn't alive back in the 80s. I wasn't alive prior to that, certainly, but I mean, is there anybody who's been more clutch in their career at hitting big shots than Jordan Bohannon? I would love for somebody to challenge that notion. I don't think there's any way that you could claim that. He has been absolutely clutch, and I know he's missed some. I remember he's gotten blocked a couple times on potential game-winning or game-tying shots, but ultimately he has been absolutely stellar with his clutch performances offensively. And yeah, say what you want about his defense. He's playing hard on that end. His effort level has been tremendous. Boy, what an awesome moment for his sixth and final year. I am not going to call a technical foul in the chat, Corey Lemansky. I'm Corey. You're Lemansky. I'm not going to do that, but appreciate the notion, I guess. Apologize for not getting to this comment, Kelly. I did see the end of the Wisconsin game and Davision. Now I'm wondering what exactly you're referring to here. Specifically, maybe there was something dirty that I missed, but I did not see anything egregious from Brad Davision yesterday. But I have to admit, I did take some joy in watching Brad Davision sulk on the bench to finish his Big Ten career. Of course, they'll be firmly in the tournament, likely as a 2 seed, maybe a 3, losing in that first round. Of course, having that loss to end the season at Nebraska. Donner, I completely agree with you, Donner. I think Rebraca works hard. It must be hard to play against giants. He's 6'8", and yes, I know, you should be playing out of position. Well, he is the best option they have, and we got to remember we're not there every day in practice. If Fran thought that Josh Agundale or Riley Mulvey, if either of those guys were ready, he would be playing them. He didn't play Josh a single minute against Illinois, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I can see I understand the argument by saying that, look, he should have at least gotten 5 to 10 minutes in that game, or even a couple minutes, just to spell Chris Murray and everybody who was helping out on Kofi Coburn, who is a load. But the bottom line is that should give us a pretty strong indication that, unfortunately, Fran does not see Josh Agundale as close to being able to play consistent minutes at this level. And that's a problem. I hope Josh gets to that point. They need him moving forward. And I didn't want to bring this up with Gary because we can talk about this another time. But I would say this about the Hawkeyes moving forward. Do I think Keegan's going to stay? I don't. But let's just play that hypothetical game for a second. Assuming Chris or Keegan somehow does come back. All right. I see Chris developing, maybe not to what Keegan is now, but I see him developing somewhat similar. I mean, he's got some of the same physical traits, of course, being able to have the same father, who I'm sure has been a real big part of Keegan's development. That's going to help. If you can get somehow Keegan back, Chris is back. Yes, you lose Bohannon. I think they're a 3-point shooter and a big man away from being a Final Four or better team next year. Now, you may say that's a lot to assume that they're going to be able to go out and do that. And I'm not assuming that they're going to be able to, go out and get an elite 3-point shooter. You're not going to be able to replace the production that Jordan Bohannon has given to Iowa and the Big Ten. But my point is, boy, you add a big man in there like Jack Nungy. It's unfortunate that what happened with Jack and his family, and certainly he did what was best for him, and you can't blame him for that. But boy, if you had Jack here, and even Frederick, I know people don't like Frederick because of how he left, and he's hurt now anyways, but this team is talented enough. You add a couple more pieces, even though you lose Bohannon, Sanfort's going to develop. I think this team can be really good. And boy, Fran deserves so much credit. I think we underappreciate players. We underappreciate Fran. I've been critical of Fran and his, unfortunately at times, the lack of defense. But boy, they've tightened things up defensively. Today was not their best day on that end. But look at what he's done in identifying guys like Luka Garza, Chris Murray, Keegan Murray. He's recruited well. He's not getting 4- and 5-star guys, but Keegan Murray is absolutely a 5-star player. He was a 5-star recruit, whether he was ranked that by rivals and 247 Sports, who cares? Fran has identified these guys and developed them into superstars, and that's exactly what Keegan Murray is right now. Spaghetti Factory says Iowa should hope for a 6 seed. I think you're no lower than a 6 seed at this point, Spaghetti Factory. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they end up being a 7. I would be very surprised by that. Joe brings up that dreaded 12-5 matchup. I just don't know that I'm reading too much. I know that there's a history of upsets with the 12-5 game, but certainly the higher the seed, the better. If they get to a 5 seed, they have a chance of playing an automatic qualifier as opposed to an at-large team. And I'm talking specifically mid-majors. You could play a Chattanooga or South Dakota State. I don't know if South Dakota State will be a 12, but my point is I'd rather that. Those may be more dangerous teams, but if you're going to roll the dice on competition, potential competition, I'd much rather roll your dice on a group of 5, a mid-major school, than I would anybody who's getting in as an at-large. That's just me personally. Especially some of these at-large bids that are going to be had here tonight and tomorrow with some of the lesser conferences. The Atlantic 10, Davidson's playing great ball right now. They'll have a chance to win the A-10 tournament prior to the Big Ten tournament tomorrow on CBS. That's a team I wouldn't want to face. But for the most part, most of these automatic qualifiers, you'd much rather play them, at least in my opinion, than an at-large bid. Jordan says, hopefully we get a 6, praying we don't get a 5. I don't agree with that. You have a right to view it that way, but I definitely don't agree with that. Skylar says that Coach Close should push me west. Push me west. California's dirty. So why does he need to push me west? Again, I'm not saying I wouldn't go to San Diego. But boy, that'd be better than going to Buffalo. Can you imagine if Iowa goes to Buffalo? Now, fans will travel no matter where it's at, but I'd much rather go to Greenville, South Carolina? Much rather go to South Carolina. I'd rather go to San Diego, and then I'd probably go Portland and Dallas, kind of in the same boat. I don't love the city of Portland, but I do have some friends out there. I would much rather play in San Diego than I would in Buffalo. Now, as far as tickets are concerned, I'm guessing flights are probably going to be more expensive to San Diego this time of year than they are to Buffalo. KL says, I think this Iowa team translates well to the NCAA tournament. We aren't big dominant like last year. I think we can play with more teams, especially like a matchup last year versus Oregon. Absolutely agree. Now, would they have beaten this? Would this year's team beat last year's Oregon team? I don't know. Remember, Iowa got ran off the court in that game, but athletically, Iowa's much better equipped to face an athletic team in the tournament. And I've been saying it. You can go back and listen to some of my content early in the season. I've been saying it for a long time that I thought this team is better equipped for tournament play. I agree with you, Kale, because of the fact that they can get down their stances and play defense, even though at times their on-ball defense isn't the best. They have problems with big men at times, but ultimately they're better defensively, and that's a collective thing. And but it's made up of a bunch of individuals who have really taken it seriously. And I do believe that I do believe this team matches up better with the likes of an Oregon from last year. Aaron says he respectfully disagrees on Purdue getting to Indianapolis. If they lose today, if they win, they probably will get it. Iowa just needs a good draw in the NCAAs. But Aaron, Purdue is going to be the higher seed. Purdue is likely not going to fall to 5 seed status. If Iowa beats them, I still don't think Iowa jumps them as far as a seed line is concerned. But that is a storyline. If you're rooting for an Indianapolis first and second round, you're hoping that Iowa can beat Purdue, or maybe Purdue loses to Michigan State today. That would be huge for Iowa's chances at getting to Indy. But again, there's a lot involved with that. That's why there's bracketologists, and that's why that's their jobs, because they understand all the criteria as far as regions and whatnot. Bud does bring up Ogundele's weight, and I didn't want to bring this up earlier. I think he has gained weight. I could be wrong. I don't want to assume that, but I guess I'm going to. I feel like he has gained some weight, and I hope that he can get that figured out. I hope it's not a health issue that is out of his control. Hopefully it's just a dietary issue that can be corrected, because they need him moving forward. Not necessarily this year, although it'd be great to have him if you play the likes of a Kofi Coburn somewhere in the tournament, which isn't likely. But yeah, they need to figure out a way to get him developed, because he's a 7-footer. He's a big guy. I'm sure he learned a lot from Luka Garza. There's no question about it, but they need him at his best, especially next year. Losing, you're not going to lose Philip Rebrach. I think he's going to probably stay, but you do lose offensive production out of Jordan Bohannon, which is a threat from 3. They need to be able to have a post presence to be able to open up things from outside, because I think they're going to struggle to shoot the 3 if they have no post presence next year and no Jordan Bohannon. I hope I'm wrong. I was somewhat wrong this year, because they've shot the 3 ball a lot better. But, today they go 14 to 32. I mean, that's 44%. I guess it's a lot better. 14 to 32, man. That's actually a lot better than I anticipated it being. I thought Iowa shot in the low 30s. They shot 44% from 3, 83% from the free throw line. That's exactly what you need in tournament play. Jack, would you prefer a 5 or a 6 seed in the tournament? I'm preferring the highest seed possible, although matchups are important. If you were to lay out a matchup of a 4 versus a 5 and a potential second round matchup of a 5 versus, what would that be, a 4 versus a 6 versus a 3. If I could know who the 3 and the 4 seeds are in that region, I might choose differently, but absolutely not really knowing that clearly until the bracket comes out. I'd prefer to be a 5 seed. Again, chance at playing a 12 seed. The one bad thing about playing a 12 seed is it could potentially be one of those 2 play-in games with at-large bids, and they get a game out of their belt in Dayton. That is a disadvantage, in my opinion. We've seen teams run like UCLA, a perfect example of what UCLA did. Tennessee's another one that's won games playing out of the play-in game. Kurt says that one of the 3 CBS announcers said that Iowa has a good chance of being a 4 if they win tomorrow. Lots of opinions out there. Yeah, maybe they do. There's no way they're going to be a 3. I hate to dismiss that notion, but there's just no way that happens. But I'd be all for being a 4 seed. Remember, Lenardi had Iowa just recently. I haven't checked his bracket today. He had Iowa, I believe, 3 spots out of the final 4 seed spot, and that is a big deal. Yes, Nunji has been the leading scorer on Xavier. I feel for that team. Don't think they're going to make the tournament. Feel terrible I hope I'm wrong. I hope they get in, but don't know that they will at this point. Skylar could have been Joe, Keegan, Luca, Jack, throwing Perkins and Chris. Boy, would have been stacked. But again, maybe some of these guys don't develop. If, like Gary brought, that's a great point from Gary Close. Maybe some of these guys don't develop without more playing time. And that's certainly a factor. Jack says, Andy Katz has said since late February we could get to a 4, but no one else is saying that. And listen, let me just say this about Andy Katz. I don't mind Andy Katz, but I don't believe Andy Katz is a bracketologist by any means. He's a great college basketball personality, but I'd much rather trust the likes of Joe Lunardi, Jerry Palm, Tim Kruger, Shelby Mast of USA Today. Those guys do it for a living. I know like Tim Kruger covers Creighton sports as well, but Andy Katz is more of a personality. He's an analyst, but I'm really not banking on what Andy Katz says at Stay about brackets. Now, maybe they'll get there and I'll be proven wrong, but we'll know in about 24 hours, folks. Doug, he transferred. CJ Frederick did transfer and got hurt, and I feel for him, even though he kind of went out in a way that didn't rub Iowa fans or Iowa, the coaching staff and players, the right way. But I feel for CJ continues to deal with injuries. Lesko says everyone keeps saying Keegan is going top 10 in the draft. Any chance he stays? There's a chance. I don't think he's staying. But you can't just say it's obvious. I mean, I think he's probably going to stay. I heard somebody speculate last night on a late show that we did that potentially Chris would want to leave too. Being a potential second round pick. I have not heard much draft chatter about Chris Murray at this point. Now maybe he'll end up on some draft boards, and if he's a high second round, maybe he feels like he should leave. They are an extra year removed from high school because they reclassified initially. That's a factor. But I think there's a chance Keegan stays, but certainly wouldn't bank on it. Aaron brings up team chemistry. The chemistry on this team is absolutely a huge factor. You can tell these guys love each other and they're playing for each other. Kelly says that the National Player of the Year voting ended yesterday, but did the National Coach of the Year voting end yesterday? That's a question I'm not sure we have the answer to. Jeff, unbelievable, but 2 of the 5 all-time best Hawkeyes have played the last 2 years. Chris, you are up next, and I think we're gonna see Chris take a big jump next year. Doug says, did anyone else realize Keegan was on pace to top Garza for total points in the season? I did not until it was flashed across the screen yesterday against Rutgers. That is an absolutely incredible fact, and now he's going to surpass him with flying colors during March Madness. Even if they only play 2 more games, if they play tomorrow and lose in the first round of the tournament, Keegan right now is averaging, like 24 points a game in tournament play. It is incredible what he's done, and I really never thought I'd see a more dominant or as dominant of a player at Iowa than I saw with Luka Garza, and I've been proven wrong. It's unbelievable what's happened here. Drill MVP says that Purdue is up 7 at the half. So thank you for the update here. And Skylar, thank you for this comment. Best show on YouTube. I appreciate that. I'm not going to claim to be the best show on YouTube. Certainly Gary carries this. I give Gary a lot of credit. Again, I give Don Patterson and all our guests a lot of credit. But thank you for this compliment. And our call line is open. I've still got the line open, folks. Give us a call. I'm not going to set a time limit on you now because, we had to get to a lot in that first hour. But feel free to give us a call during hour 2, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. And I'm going to see if I can get the my screen here so I can keep up with the Purdue game as we're talking. But again, give us a call and we can talk hoops. We can talk tomorrow's finals, championship game, and certainly what Iowa needs to do to get a Big Ten championship. Wouldn't that be special? Just scrolling through the comments here. BJ Armstrong was clutch, but I don't think of BJ. Now, granted, I was not alive when BJ played at Iowa. I do not think of BJ as being... I mean, BJ was a great player. He's obviously one of the best players, NBA players to ever play at Iowa, but I don't look at BJ and say, man, he just, was that clutch guy. I guess we could ask Coach Close that question, but it'd be nice if we could have the volume down. Yeah, but BJ would probably be in consideration just because of what he gave Iowa during a pretty special time basketball-wise. Drill MVP, is Iowa a lock for a 5 seed? I think so at this point. I had said earlier in the weekend that perhaps the only thing that would get them to a 5 would be a win tomorrow. I think they're probably in now because I didn't think Lunardi and those guys would be as high on them as they are. My guess is that they probably are a lock right now as of today. Now that could change. Certainly, you'd have to look across the conference tournament landscape to see if there's another team that could potentially steal that, or if other teams lose, if teams on the 5 line, or teams that right now, according to the committee, would be on the 5 line, if those teams lose or if they've already lost and I'm just missing that, certainly there's movement. Texas lost, of course. I believe Texas is one of those teams that Iowa would be in consideration with for a 5. Let me just pull up Joe Lunardi because I know he is probably one of the more respected personalities out there as it relates to bracketology. And according to his last update, this was 2 hours ago, so would have been prior to the end of the Iowa game, I'm assuming. Okay. He's got Iowa as his 3rd team out of the Final 4 spot. So he's got Providence, Arkansas, Illinois, UCLA. So Arkansas, I believe, what's the latest on Arkansas? Let me pull up the score there for the Razorbacks. And this is all something that if you're a diehard Iowa fan, these are all things to pay attention to. Because if you're hoping that Iowa can somehow get up to that 4 line. That's a factor. So Arkansas did lose by 18 to Texas A&M. So you could argue that helps Iowa for a case at the 4. I doubt it's going to move them up that much. Right now, Lunardi's got Arkansas as his second 4 seed. Illinois did lose as well. They're on the 4 line for Lunardi. UCLA, Providence, the other 4s. Houston, UConn would be in competition. I think Iowa should be ahead of Houston. I'm so sick of people who are arguing Houston. To me, Houston does not have the resume of a 4 seed. That's my opinion. There's a lot of hangover from last year and their tournament run. And frankly, I just think that's unfair to the rest of the field because Iowa's played much better competition and has been much more impressive in their wins and have lesser bad wins. So I'm not quite sure how Houston could possibly be ahead of Iowa as it relates to bracketology. That's my opinion. I'm sure that some Cougar fans will take offense to that, but that's how I see it at this point. Adam Haluska was clutch. However, the Northwestern State 3, boy, he'd made that. He certainly would have went down in the record books. Aaron, Jabo is cold-blooded. Don't make them all, but he is fearless. Kelly agrees. Keegan is the most talented ever. That's certainly a question. I know Chris Kingsbury's name is going to get brought up. That it was just a matter of time. And certainly the Luke Recker shot in the tournament. What was that? 2000? Was that 2000? 2002? Yeah, he's certainly got to be in the conversation as well. Skyler also brings up Joe Wieskamp being clutch. Remember the 3 against Rutgers. Now, that was sort of a prayer. And by the way, for anybody wondering, right now, Purdue leading Michigan State 43-34 with 14 to go in the second half. So certainly still within reaching distance for the Spartans, but right now the Boilermakers leading. Skyler also brings up Dean Oliver. Kurt, Rebrace had guys over his back all day. However, he didn't strongly grab a number of rebounds that slipped out of his hands. And Chris had that as well. I think at times Iowa struggles to really haul in rebounds. And honestly, if you're going to argue for Josh Ogundele to be playing more based on, I don't know what you're basing that on, just purely the fact that he's big. Just go back and watch tape when he's been in there. He has struggled with butterfingers at times. And if you're already struggling on the boards controlling rebounds, I don't care if he's 7 foot or not. He's not proven himself to be a great rebounder yet when he has played. I know he hasn't played a lot, but he has not proven that. And Kurt says we will need Ogundele against Purdue's gigantic center. I don't know that we'll see him. I don't know if we'll see him. Maybe we will, but remember, he did not play at Illinois a week ago, and that is a factor. No question about it. How close is Jabo to the all-time major conference 3-point record? I want to say he's maybe like 30 or so away. That's not exact. So he would have an opportunity to potentially pass that if they can make a deep run in the Big Ten or the NCAA tournament. My guess is he will not, but certainly he's got an opportunity to get very close to setting the all-time NCAA record for threes. Aaron Swan brings up Desante Bowen. Makes me wonder, will Iowa have a full, will they retain Ulyss Toussaint next year? You do lose Bohannon, so that's a factor, but it'll be interesting to see if they can hang on to all of those guys for next season. BJ says, let's get some NIL money together here in the chat to bring Keegan back. That's going to take a lot. And by the way, just got a message from Tim Kruger of Stadium. I'll go on the record. I'll put him on the record here. I asked him where Iowa is as far as seeding right now. He said it's top 6 seed right now, top 6. So he's not going so far as of right now to put them as a 5. So he's a bit lower on Iowa than Lunardi and Mike DeCourcy. Mike DeCourcy is a Big Ten guy, so there's probably a bit of bias there. Hate to say that. Iowa is a Xavier Foster away from a Final Four. I don't think you take on that baggage. I'm not saying you're implying that Iowa should go out and get him, but there's some baggage there. Certainly with Xavier Foster being dismissed from Iowa, or from Iowa State, excuse me. Guerrilla MVP, has there ever been a more successful season for Hawkeye sports? Are we talking football and basketball? Because I think the answer to that question is yes. 2015-16, Iowa did sort of flame out in its March Madness quest, but remember that was preceded by the 12-0 football year. So you could make an argument that was more successful. Iowa went 10-4 in football, won the West this year. You gotta acknowledge that. There's no question about it. Just running through the chat here, making sure we don't miss any questions from anybody. Jeff says, choose Big Ten tournament title and one and done next week, or loss tomorrow and Final Four appearance. Loss tomorrow. There is no question about that. Now, I have been on people this week for devaluing the Big Ten tournament. I think it's a shame that people continue to say, well, maybe we should lose earlier in the Big Ten tournament, or, what are the other comments that people make? Well, who cares if they do anything in the Big Ten tournament as long as they win in March? Like, that's not my attitude at all. But if we're talking about a Final Four appearance, I'd much rather them lose tomorrow. Now, I think it's more of a question: would you rather win tomorrow and not get to the Sweet 16, or lose tomorrow and get to the Sweet 16? That's more of a conversation we can have. I think a lot of fans would say they'd rather go to the Sweet 16. I think I'd rather win tomorrow, but that's about a toss-up for me. I think both of those things are huge accomplishments. Iowa hasn't won the Big Ten since 2006, haven't been in the Sweet 16, 98, 99? Now I'm forgetting which year, which spring it was. But yeah, it's been, 23 years since they've won or gotten to the Sweet 16. And Bud brings up a good point. We've 11-2 since Fran moved Jabo to the point and put Perkins in the starting lineup, and that's why he's the head coach. He gets paid the big bucks because people, including myself, were critical of it at the time. Kurt brings up Keegan Murray potentially leaving and going to a bad team. I'm not sure if he'll be a top 5 pick, Kurt. How far down does the lottery go? I'd have to look, but yeah, and I don't know. Here's the thing about the NBA. The NBA is one of those weird things where, you can be a second round pick, and I'm kind of shifting over to Chris. You can be a second round pick and never play in the league. Look at Aaron White. It's just never materialized for him. Adam Haluska had problems fitting in the NBA, and it's just hard. So, I'll say this, that I hope Chris comes back. I wouldn't count on Keegan coming back, but you never say never on these things. Let's start a GoFundMe for, NIL. Sure, dude. Wouldn't that be great? That's actually not a bad idea. No, I don't think it's going to influence him. If he's got millions of dollars on the line, I don't think you're going to get a GoFundMe that grows that much to get him to come back. Bud, Fran has never won 4 games in the Big Ten tournament. Ditto. Well done. Sam, why did CJ end up leaving? I can't speak for CJ, but I think it was the opportunity to play at Kentucky. He grew up very close to Lexington, and it was kind of his dream school. I think they didn't recruit him out of high school. Now Brock says the reason is because he's a snake. You said it, not me. I think he did Iowa dirty, from what I understand. I think it caught Iowa off guard. I think it was unfortunate. It was unfair to Fran and to his teammates. He did what he needed to do. I'm not going to wish bad things on CJ Frederick, but it has not worked out so far, mainly because of health. Up to this point, we'll see what he does next year at Kentucky. I like this question here from Mart. Have you ever considered dabbling in calling live games? So when I did FM radio, we actually had a play-by-play guy for high school sports. So never got an opportunity to do it. I've talked about it before, that I would be open to it. I know Coach Patterson and I have had conversations, because he does work the Missouri Valley Conference for ESPN for their online games and for streaming. So I would consider it. This is I've got a lot of irons in the fire, but something that has come across my mind in the past. And just for anybody wondering, update here: Boilermakers leading now just by 4 with 11 minutes to go. It's 47-43 from Indianapolis. So let's keep an eye on this, because I would much rather Iowa play Michigan State tomorrow. That would be. I think it's really not even close. I think if they play Michigan State, they win. If they play Purdue, they lose. That's how I see it. And I'll go ahead and again, kind of brag on myself for a second here. I apologize, but this was my bracket, folks. I've shown this before the tournament started, and people can attest to this that follow the podcast. You can go back and look at it. Let's get that banner off the screen. This was my tournament bracket that I filled out prior to the start of the Big Ten tournament. All right. And so right now, the only result that I've had wrong was the Indiana win over Illinois. So I think that means, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think I'm 10-1 right now. I'm 10-1 in the picks, so I'm happy to say that. Not that I didn't place any money on this, nor would I. But I wish there was an award for this. But I have Iowa losing to Purdue in the championship round. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. I sure hope it doesn't happen. I'd love to be wrong on that result. But I do have Iowa losing to Purdue. If Michigan State wins, I've got Iowa winning. I think Iowa will win, and it'll be a tremendous, tremendous feat. There's no question about it. Doug, thank you. Please hit the like button if you have not already done so. It does help the channel, helps the video, and you are welcome. Appreciate the donations from earlier. You're always welcome to donate to the channel by means of a super chat, super sticker, what's the other one? Super thanks. That's the third one from YouTube. Appreciate that. And of course, if you are interested, you're more than welcome to donate to the PayPal in the description below this video. Just click on the link and you'll see our parent company, storycounty.news, local news site here, names that I have been operating here for a couple of years. You're welcome to donate to that channel. Again, PayPal in the description below. Always happy and thankful that people are willing to be generous with their dollars and help a cause. I'm just what I'm trying to do is first of all, I'm doing something I love and being able to dissect Iowa games and, provide content for a fan base that I think was, this is being able to do these shows on YouTube and then be able to have them on demand via podcast is something this day and age I thought was necessary and was missing for the Iowa fan base. Hopefully we've been able to provide some of that this year. Nathan says, been listening to the podcast for a while. First time catching you live. Love the post-game shows. Thank you for doing them. Thank you for that, Nathan. Appreciate hearing that. And it really does mean something when people comment and they say that they've been enjoying the show with Coach Close or enjoying my content and my videos. That really does mean something. So I appreciate that. Views are one thing, but to hear it from people and individuals and to see people willing to donate and help the channel, that does mean a lot. So I appreciate that, Nathan, and to everybody else who's voiced similar sentiments. Imfen says, I think a lot of people have lost their voice after screaming for the final few minutes. Absolutely. Doug says Palm has Iowa as a 6 seed. Last I saw it was a 7, but maybe you're right, Doug. Maybe he's got Iowa as a 6. Jack says Michigan State's not shooting well today. Don't see them winning. It's a 5-point game right now, 11:21 to go. So you could be right on that. Now, as far as this question from Bud, let me pull up the net rankings because he asked the question, how many D1 or how many quad 1 wins does Iowa have? And the answer to that question, I believe, is 3. Am I right? Let's see, Iowa 3, right? So today would be I think. Let's look at this. Indiana. Yeah, Indiana's a quad 1 win, so 3. So Iowa right now in quad 1 games is 3-6, which isn't terrible given the fact that Iowa was at 0-5 at one point. And they're 6-3 in quad 2, 10-0 against quad 3 and quad 4 combined. By the way, it's a 4-point game now. 10 minutes to go. Purdue leading 49-45. Oh, absolutely. I remember Doug Thomas, Harpo. Does anybody remember Doug Dunk Thomas? I mentioned him on the show yesterday. One of the more athletic guys that's played here during this century. From a skill position standpoint, he doesn't maybe. I think he probably pales in comparison to a Keegan Murray, but athletically, he was right up there with anybody. All right. Why does Jerry Palm not like Iowa? I have no idea. My understanding from what people have said is that he's really caught up in the, Tim Kruger talked about this, the projective, is that the right words? Projective analytics or the metrics, for instance, Ken Palm and Sagarin and those ratings. And it seems like younger bracketologists are more reliant on those numbers, whereas the older ones may be more reliant on RPI and whatnot. So, and the net rankings are very friendly to Iowa this year as well. So that's a factor potentially. I'm just giddy here seeing Michigan State making this comeback. It's 4-point game now with 10 minutes to go, and they're riding high. Houston apparently up against whoever they're playing, but they're again playing a team. Who are they playing? Drill MVP, tell us. I'd like to know. And feel free to call in and we can debate this. I hope I didn't get a bunch of people to sign now that I encouraged Drill MVP to call back. So, Always enjoy talking to Darrell MVP, though. Blake, let's just sum it all up with this. What's Iowa's chance to win tomorrow? If it's Michigan State, I give them a 65% chance of winning. Maybe that's a little high. If it's Purdue, I give them like a 40% chance of winning. I think, again, matchups are huge in tournament play, and especially when you look at how Purdue is built. Now, Iowa did lose to them twice, so perhaps it's hard to beat a team 3 times. That is a factor. But we saw the women do it, right? So they beat Indiana 3 times and won. So that, perhaps that's overhyped. Rick Gustafson says, I thought the refs let them play. There were still a lot of over-the-back calls they didn't make. Absolutely, Brock. Yes, I'd much rather play Michigan State. Rick would rather play Purdue. I'd love to know why, Rick. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'd love to know why. Thank you for this update, David. And now the lead is 5. So it's actually a 5-point game now. 9 minutes to go, Michigan State ball. Skylar says, I'm not the GOAT, Skylar, but thank you for that. Also want to give a shout out to a couple of people here. Let me throw the phone number back up here. So you're welcome to call in there on the bottom line, 515-635-1601. And hopefully I'm not going to lose my... I've got like 5 screens I'm working with here. I want to say this as it relates to the donations. I want to give a shout out to a couple of people who have been generous. And of course, when you donate a super chat, yes, a good chunk of that goes to YouTube. I'm not discouraging people from donating to super chat. It certainly helps. And we're very much appreciative of that. But I want to give a shout out to a couple of people who have made here donations through PayPal here. Cooper, thank you so much for the donation. Cooper donating to the show. Carrie, thank you so much. Just came in here a moment ago. Thank you very much, sir, for the donation. Very much appreciated. Lawrence as well. That was yesterday. And Timothy, thank you. I cannot say that enough. It has been, I've enjoyed doing it, but it has been a lot of work getting this channel going over the past year and being able to finally make a little bit of money with ads. Pennies on the dollar, but appreciative of the money that has come in. And thank you for those very generous donations. Very much appreciated. Grant, the lottery is up to 14. Thank you for that. I think Keegan Murray right now is a lottery pick if he goes. Nathan says, what a bracket. Thank you, sir. I'm proud of it. Listen, my NCAA tournament bracket will probably be a total disaster. So, but thank you for that. Appreciate that. I wish it would generate more views. Like I wish people could know, hey, this guy predicted, 10 of 11 so far correct. Right now it's a 3-point game, folks. Michigan State's cut the lead down to 3. Make it, it's 3. So they'll go to the line here. Now I'm a bit behind maybe some of you that are watching this on cable because I am streaming, but it's a 3-point game now with just under 8 minutes to go. Doug says I'd take our chances with either team. Rick said these conference tournaments are such a big thing. Why does Jerry Palm move Iowa since they keep winning? Well, I think Jerry Palm, first of all, he was underranking Iowa, so this may just be Jerry's way of being able to kind of dig himself out of the hole. I don't think, even if Jerry Palm ends up being right and they end up being a 5 or a 6 seed, I think that just means he was underranking Iowa prior to the tournament. Now, according to Tim Kruger, I did text him back when he said that they're not a 5 right now. He says that Texas, Houston, St. Mary's, UConn, not sure Iowa would be favored over any of them. That's just Tim Kruger. Appreciate him getting back to me. He's a very, very accessible guy. So thank you, Tim. And I think Ari Gold said go Hawks about 8 times, and I'm fine with that. Sleepy says, IU fan here. Good game. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. That's a very gracious way of looking at this because it's a heartbreaking loss for IU, but I do think the Hoosiers are in comfortably. I really do. Thank you, Kelly, for being here, and we will see you tomorrow. Appreciate that. Jack says, go MSU. Agree with that as well. Sleepy says, you guys can beat Purdue. The problem with Purdue being there, Sleepy, is, first of all, I don't think Indiana fans are probably going to be there rooting for Iowa, which means there's going to be a lot of Purdue fans. I hope Iowa fans can get tickets and be out there in droves. That would be great. JB says that Iowa is a matchup nightmare for anyone. Brock says, if Purdue wins, how do you think we try and match up with them? Well, they played them twice before. I think we did see some Ogundele in the first matchup, and I thought Ogundele actually held his own back in December against the Boilermakers, but I do anticipate that being a problem. They got Zach Edey in foul trouble in the second matchup, as I recall. Trevion Williams is a load. I would not be shocked to see Ogundele played a bit, but I would not be shocked to not see him played. I had made the prediction before the tournament started that if Iowa played Illinois in the semifinals today, which of course they did not, but if that had happened, I would have predicted that Ogundele would have seen some minutes, even though he didn't play against Illinois. I would stand by that to a degree because Iowa did struggle inside against Trace Jackson Davis today. And Trevion Williams and Zach Edey are totally different players. They're bigger. I think Trace Jackson Davis is a bit better around the rim, but Trevion Williams is no slouch. And neither is Edey. They're both very skilled for their size. And certainly that's a factor. And that's why I think I'd much rather play Michigan State. Dumb Guy says we need to hang this banner. Last year we hung hung nothing was our best team ever. Now, what year was that we hung nothing? I don't know. Was that 2007? I mean, first of all, if they win tomorrow, they're going to get a banner, right? They're going to get, and rightfully so. I don't think they're going to hang a banner for just getting to the championship, but certainly that's a factor. They should absolutely have a banner. Izzo does know how to coach in March, Rick. There's some substance to that, and I appreciate your explanation as to why you'd rather play Purdue. Painter has not done terribly in March either, although he's not had the success that Izzo has had throughout his career. Purdue does not play defense very well, although they're holding Michigan State down comfortably here. 49 points with 7:51 to go. It's a 3-point game. Purdue at the free throw line. First free throw for the Boilers is good. First free throw for Purdue is good. 7:51 to play. So 4-point game for Purdue. And I'll just give you the second free throw and then we'll move on. Second free throw is good. So it's a 5-point lead for Purdue right now with under 8 to play. Doug says, I think Purdue wins. We play a lot of our 6'8 guys and make Purdue match up with our guys. Be just fine with that. More Let's Go Hawks from Ari Gold. Thank you for that. Teresa, people always underestimate the Hawks. Fine with that too, right? If Iowa win, Michigan State wins Iowa, I'm no question about it, will be favored. I'd be very surprised if Michigan State would be favored. And by the way, Michigan State just cut the lead back to 3 again. So a lot of game left here, folks. A lot of game left. Doug says the Indiana fans were not rooting for Iowa today either. Very true. But I'm just saying you're going to pack that place with Purdue fans tomorrow if they get to the championship game. But maybe Indiana fans will show up, and they're not going to root for Purdue over Iowa. They're not going to root for a rival over the Hawkeyes. So I think that could very well be a factor. All right. Just making sure I'm not missing anything here. Just to kind of recap things, Iowa defeating Indiana 80-77 on an absolute miraculous 3 from Jordan Bohannon. I still don't really know that it's sunk in for me that shot actually happened and that the late comeback actually occurred. What an unbelievable play by Jordan Bohannon to advance Iowa in the tournament. Keegan Murray made a big 3 as well. Tony Perkins made some big plays down the stretch. Just an unbelievable series of events to get Iowa back in the game and ultimately pull it off and shock a lot of fans there today in Indianapolis. Brock says, do you think Keegan got screwed over for the Big Ten Player of the Year? I don't know about screwed over. I mean, Johnny Davis is deserving. By the way, the lead is 2 right now. Michigan State's cut at 56-54 with 6 minutes to go. So stay tuned on that one. I do think Keegan's the best player in the league. Yes, I'm biased. Johnny Davis went, 3 of 19 yesterday. No, there's no question. I think he should have been the National Player of the Year. I will say this about Michigan State as I'm watching them here briefly. They're playing a lot better than they played against Iowa and Iowa City. That's going to be a totally different game. Remember Iowa dominating the Spartans in Iowa City about a month ago? That is not going to happen if they play them tomorrow. Michigan State clearly is a different team, similar to how Iowa's a different team than they were in January. And I think Iowa's going to have its hands full regardless of who they play tomorrow. Let's just hope it's Michigan State. At least I believe it should be Michigan State. Give you an update from the SEC. You've got Kentucky trailing Tennessee in the second half, 48-35. A&M leading Arkansas, defeating Arkansas, 82-64. So the Razorbacks, potential 4 seed, losing to A&M. And so they are potentially going to be moving down after losing in the semis to an unranked A&M team. Looking at the ACC, Duke and Virginia, the championship game is tonight at 7:30 on ESPN. Big 12 championship game is today as well at 5 between Texas Tech and Kansas. Both those teams, especially Kansas, looking to lock in potentially a number 1 seed in the tournament. The Big East championship, Creighton and Villanova tonight at 5:30 on Fox. Should be a really good one. The Blue Jays knocking off Providence by a lot the other night. They've got an opportunity to really help their seed line. Michigan State now down 3 with the ball with just under 6 minutes to play. And bucket is good. It's a 1-point game, folks. Purdue leading Michigan State by 1 with under 6 to play in the game. Timeout Purdue. This is a whole new game, everybody. Michigan State playing like they want this championship, similar to how Iowa's played. So we'll see what happens there down the stretch. Pac-12 championship game is also tonight. UCLA and Arizona. And Arizona, no doubt, can lock in a number 1 seed with a win. They may already be a lock for a 1 seed. So that's certainly going to be interesting to see who else secures those 1 seeds. You got Gonzaga and Arizona's probably a lock right now. And then, could there be some movement after those 2? I think that's possible. 3 for Purdue, by the way. Now they're up by 4 with 5 minutes to go in the game. And then, of course, we know the SEC. We ran through the SEC. The championship game for the SEC will be tomorrow as well, as you know. A-10 championship. That is an interesting one because could be a bid stealer there with Davidson. So Richmond and Dayton playing right now on CBS Sports Network. Dayton leading 57-53. The winner of that game will play Davidson tomorrow. And is Davidson in without a win tomorrow? I think that's a question. Davidson 27-5 on the year, in and out of the top 25 by a lot of polls. I don't think I ever had Davidson in my top 25, but that is a possibility. Jermaine says if Michigan State wins, then Iowa can get revenge for the football team. Yeah, a good point. 2015, the Big Ten championship loss in football to Michigan State. Wouldn't that be great to get Michigan State back in a game this year? Louis says free throws were big the last couple of games. Look what happened last Sunday. Absolutely. I pointed that out after the Rutgers game. You'll remember this number, and I threw this up in the chat following the Rutgers game. 10 of 22 against Illinois for Iowa in the game in Champaign. 25 of 27 for Iowa against Rutgers, and that's just a huge difference. Iowa today, let me pull up the numbers for the Hawkeyes. Iowa on the day, I believe, shot around 83%. Pull up the final numbers here. They shot 83%, 10 of 12 from the line. Didn't get to the free throw line nearly as much. It was a much more physically called game today, but Iowa winning 80-77 behind an 83.3% free throw percentage. Indiana shot the free throws well as well, 86% from the line, 12 of 14. But the three-point shot was a huge difference. We know it was down the stretch. Indiana shooting just 5 of 19 for 3. Iowa 14 of 32 from 3. That's a huge, huge factor. Rick says Iowa, I think at the very least, is a Sweet 16 team, maybe an Elite 8 team, the way they're playing right now. That's possible, but let's just remember, Rick, and I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I hope that happens, but anybody can lose to anybody in the tournament. That's why it's so matchup-based, and this team is, I agree with you. This is a team that could get to the Elite 8. Absolutely. I think they could get as far as Keegan Murray leads them. As far as their defense, let me rephrase that. The defense has to be better than it was today for them to win and get to the Elite 8. Can we all agree on that? The defense has to be better than it was today. Indiana's not a team you're probably going to face in the Sweet 16. Maybe they get hot and they get to the Sweet 16. But my guess is they're going to play, a Kentucky or someone that's going to test Iowa from an athletic standpoint. Defensively, Iowa has to just play better. There's no question about it. And I did just get this in. I did not see this earlier, so thank you for this update. This makes me happy. Will Wade has been relieved of his duties at LSU. That is a big deal, and he is a cheater, from my understanding. Maybe I shouldn't say that. He's an accused cheater. And he's had some NCAA violations against him, and I'm not surprised to see him let go, and LSU did not have a great year. So he is gone. Doug Phelps says that Quanzo Martin's firing at Missouri was not a good look. He'll get picked up by somebody, though, Doug. There's no question about it. He'll get picked up by somebody. Of course, his run at Tennessee was impressive. The one year that they came out of the first four and found a way to make a run in the tournament. But yeah, there's no question about it. He'll find another job somewhere. Maybe it's in the Big Ten. I don't know that there's anybody going to be on the hot seat. I doubt there is. We'll see what happens at Maryland. I doubt that they're going to keep things standard. I don't think they're going to keep what's his face as their coach, the interim right now, and I can't think of the former player. But maybe Quanzel Martin's a candidate for Maryland. We've heard rumors that Rick Pitino would be a candidate for Maryland. We've heard the same thing to the likes of who's the other guy that was rumored to be interested in that job. There have been a couple, but yeah, Doug, Maryland absolutely would be a candidate in my mind. Brock says, bad thing with Iowa is we are very inconsistent. Yes and no, Brock, because let's be real here. Iowa hasn't had a bad loss all season. So I think defensively they have been inconsistent at times. They've been inconsistent from three, but they really haven't laid many eggs this year. The loss at Penn State's probably the worst loss, and really that's not a bad loss. Penn State was beating teams. They just beat Ohio State on a neutral court the other night. But again, anybody can beat anybody in the tournament. So that's a factor. M. Finn says it's the SEC. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Sleepy, Big Ten has Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan State, Ohio State, Purdue, Rutgers, Wisconsin in the tournament as of today. And that's not going to move, Sleepy. I mean, Indiana's in. Rutgers is in. Michigan's in. I don't. If either of those teams get left out, I'll be shocked. I think they're all in comfortably. Give credit to Indiana because I think if Indiana had lost to Michigan, I think they'd probably be on the outside looking in, but they didn't, and they found a way to get it done. And I'm just now realizing this, folks, and I apologize because I didn't pop these stats over the screen earlier in the day. This is incredible. The stat line from Keegan Murray, and I apologize for this because we were so focused on Trace Jackson Davis and what he did. But listen to these numbers. I'm just going to fill this out here so that I'm making sure I'm grabbing everything. Keegan Murray ended up with 8 3-pointers. Why is nobody talking about that? Or is maybe it's just our show that's not talking about that. We're all focused on Jordan Bohannon's shot making there at the end. Look at these numbers, guys. Keegan Murray, 32 points, 11 of 17, 8 of 10 from 3 with 9 rebounds. In 39 minutes. He played 39 minutes. That is absolutely incredible. What a day again for who I believe is no question about it, the player of the year. The national player of the year is maybe a stretch. I think he's certainly in contention, but he is my Big Ten player of the year. I don't care who says what. He's absolutely my Big Ten player of the year. And no offense to Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis has been absolutely massive for Wisconsin. And, Greg Gard, I understand him getting voted coach of the year. Again, I would have given it to Fran, given what they lost, but Wisconsin was projected pretty low on the totem pole heading into this year. And, they found a way to win the conference. So you got to give him credit. So an update on the Michigan State Purdue game right now. Looks like Purdue's going to close this thing out, folks. Unfortunately, they have spurted. I believe they're up 10 now. Am I correct in saying that? Waiting for a score across. It's a 10-point game. So that game's likely over. So it's likely going to be an Iowa-Purdue matchup tomorrow. Back to the stats for today for the Hawkeyes. Again, Keegan Murray, 32, 11 of 17, 8 of 10 from 3, and 9 rebounds. Patrick McCaffrey with 16 points on the night. And again, I didn't think he looked great at times, but he was the second leading scorer. That is incredible. I give a lot of credit to Patrick McCaffrey. If he's struggling with health, he's masking it right now on the offensive end. That's a testament to him and I'm sure his work ethic. And of course, Jordan Bohannon with 12 points, the game-winning 3-point field goal, made 2 late ones that were just massive, really 3 late ones that were really big, but he made the 3 with 1.1 seconds remaining. And Iowa gets the job done in unbelievable fashion. Running through some of the numbers, we ran through one of these earlier. Points in the paint. Indiana with 50. Iowa with 24. That's a discrepancy they managed to overcome, but it's going to be tough to overcome that again tomorrow. Iowa did shoot the 3 ball better, 14 to 32 from 3-point range, 44%. Indiana 5 of 19 for 26%. Both teams shot the free throw very well, 83+% for both teams. Indiana out-rebounded the Hawks 36-30. Iowa with its largest lead beating 4 earlier in the first half and found a way to come back and win by 3. A few stats. I'm not going to throw these across the banner here, but a few stats to tide you over as far as it relates to Indiana. Trace Jackson Davis, 31 points, 10 rebounds, 15 of 21 from the field in 38 minutes played. Also added on 3 assists. Miller Kopp had a couple threes, had 8 points. Xavier Johnson with 20 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds on 5 of 11 shooting. Parker Stewart had a rough day, 2 points, 0 of 2 from the field, had 4 rebounds. Bates had 3 points. Galloway had 2 points. Finney did not score. What's happened with Finney? I'd love for an Indiana fan to call in. What happened with Finney? Because he was much bigger in the game plan back in December, January, whenever Iowa played them last, and disappointed for him because he's an experienced veteran guy. The other results for Iowa, other stats for Iowa. Rebraca did not score. Did have 4 boards. Was really up against it all day against Trace Jackson Davis, so understandable there. Tony Perkins with 8 points, 0 of 3 from 3, but boy, had 5 big assists, including that 3 to Keegan, pass to Keegan, and 3 for Murray. 3 rebounds also for Perkins. Chris Murray had 5 points, with just 1 rebound. He's going to play better. That's an off night for Chris. Peyton Sandfort, 3 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Joe Toussaint had 4 points, 1 assist. Aaron Eulis played just 4 minutes, got a rebound. And again, not sure why his minutes have dropped off. Certainly Joe Toussaint has played well these last 2 games. That might be a factor. And as I say that, what an unbelievable play by Jaden Ivey. And they're pulling away again. Up 10 now. And Jaden Ivey's actually fallen and holding his tailbone. You hope he's okay. That would be a factor moving forward. But with 2 minutes to go, the Boilermakers have pulled ahead by 10. Connor McCaffrey had 14 minutes played tonight. 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 0 of 2 from 3. But again, thought his defense was real tough. You know, they needed him late. But in the end, it came down to this guy hitting the clutch shot when it mattered. Jordan Bohannon, again, with the game-winning 3 with 1.1 seconds remaining to send Iowa to the Big Ten championship game. Absolutely unbelievable. All right. Missing a few of the comments here. Sleepy hopes Iowa smashes Purdue. Tim, I'm way late to the party, but props to Patrick McCaffrey for weathering the ups and downs and putting up an unsung 16 points. I didn't think he had 16. When I saw that, somebody commented that in the chat, I was flabbergasted. He made some tough shots, made some free throws. Yeah, I don't think he's playing great. I don't think he's feeling great. It's just from what I see. Hopefully, everybody can be healthy by next weekend, next Thursday or Friday, whenever they may play. And we did hear Coach Close allude to the fact that perhaps the tournament committee will do Iowa a favor and not make them play until Friday. But who knows if that's the case? We'll just have to wait and see. Rick says that in the tournament, Iowa's averaged 92 points, has given up 75.3. Someone tell me what's it matter if you give up that many as long as you score 92. Well, you know, the one outlier, 112 points against Northwestern, that'll do that to that average, Rick. They got to play better defense. I mean, Indiana, let me just pull up the Big Ten stat rankings here, because and I wanted to pull this up actually when Coach Close was on with us, but as far as rankings in the Big Ten, you know, I don't think Indiana's very high would be my guess. And I have not seen the rankings here specifically. We're going to look at conference only stats to kind of make sure this is a balanced report. Yeah, right now Indiana in the conference is the 11th scoring team, 11th highest scoring team in the Big Ten Conference, only ahead of Penn State, Minnesota, Rutgers. So I was saying that all game. This is not a great Indiana offense, and Iowa, you know, didn't play great defense. Trace Jackson Davis is playing better than he has, but Iowa's got to play better defensively. And Purdue's the second highest scoring offense behind Iowa. Iowa averaging 79.6 points per game in conference play, and Purdue is next
but they're averaging 4 points less per game. That's a really big differential. But Iowa did score 80 points, and Indiana is the third best defense if you're just looking at points per game. Let's take a look at KenPom. I do want to give everybody an idea where Iowa's at in KenPom right now. Ken Pomeroy has Iowa as his 13th best team in the country, the second best offense in the country, the 96th best defense. And I'm assuming that includes today. That's still, I don't think today helped that. I don't know where they were prior to this game, but my guess is that rating went down. It is what it is. They've been one of the better defensive teams in the Big Ten over the past 2 months. You hope that continues. Typically, you don't see teams win in the tournament with that low of a rating defensively, but they look like a different team these past two months. I agree with that. Indiana, let me pull up Indiana here in KenPom's ratings. According to Ken Pomeroy, Indiana is ranked I can find Indiana on this list. Let's see Illinois. I'm trying to find Indiana. All right, Indiana's 39, and they are 91st in offense in the country, 20th in defense. So, no, Iowa's defense needs to get better. And again, I understand that Indiana's playing better than maybe those numbers would bear out. But got to do better. By the way, it's an 8-point lead now for Purdue. A minute to go. It looks like it's over. Michigan State does have the ball. Here's a drive inside. Floater, no good. Tap in, no good. Rebound, Trevion Williams. Purdue the other way now, and I think they can start to smell a trip to Sunday for the championship game. And I'll say this: if there's a positive with Purdue winning, if Iowa beats Purdue tomorrow, it's a much better win than beating Michigan State as it relates to the resume. I do think it's going to be harder for Iowa to win. Rick says, would you rather have a team that has an average of 84 and gives up 72, or a team that averages 74 and gives up 69? I like balance, Rick. I understand what you're saying, but they're not going to average. They're not averaging 84. They're averaging 84 because of one outlying performance in the Big Ten tournament. Now, there's no question they're the highest scoring team in the Big Ten. That's going to bode well. But I'm just saying that the history says it's hard to make a Sweet 16, or especially a Final Four. It's almost impossible to make a Sweet Final Four if your Ken Pomeroy adjusted defensive efficiency is 100. That's never happened. I can go out on a limb and say that's never happened. I know it hasn't happened. We talked about it last year prior to Iowa's season because everybody's talking about Iowa as a potential Final Four team, and that conversation got brought up. So that's hard to overcome, and that's all I'm saying, Rick. But they're not going to average 84 in the NCAA tournament because you're not going to have the likes of Northwestern in the NCAA tournament. That makes sense. But I like balance. That's just my opinion. But I understand what you're saying. I'd much rather, if we're just looking at it, if you're just asking me this question straight up, yeah, I'd rather score 84 and give up 72. But defensively, just got to be better once we get to March Madness. G. Alistar says, Iowa inconsistent. Yes, today we played our B game for all, but the last 3 minutes, Hawkeyes A game is pretty special. I absolutely agree with that. Craig says, last Iowa Coach of the Year was definitely Tom Davis. Alford never got it. Boy, that's been a long, long time. Rick says that the 3 teams Iowa beat all had better scoring defense. Northwestern 72 per game. Rutgers 63 and 67. Yeah, I understand that, and I'm not saying Iowa's offense can't. Listen, the Iowa offense is what is going to continue to carry it, Rick. But the offense was elite last year, and they matched up against a team that overmatched Iowa from a defensive standpoint. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but you have to be balanced to have success in March. The history shows that. So again, maybe they can. I'm not saying they can't make a Sweet 16 with those numbers. I'm just saying if they played the defense they played today against Indiana, it's going to be hard to make an Elite Eight or Final Four. That's just my opinion. Let's take our next call here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, Corey, Jared the actor.
Hey, Jared, how are you?
Doing good. What a game. I was talking to my dad. My dad's an old school Iowa guy, and we were saying that might have been one of the best, not only Hawkeye games, but Big Ten tournament games in the history of the tournament. So,
absolutely.
I'm not sure how you feel about that, but for me, it was just absolutely amazing.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, again, I haven't really had time, Jared, to really compartmentalize what happened. I mean, certainly in the moment, I was ecstatic. There's no question about it. But being on this show for the past 2+ hours, I really haven't had time to really process what happened. Just an unbelievable moment, and might be listen, doing it tomorrow would be even more special. We know that, but one of the greatest basketball moments as a Hawkeye fan that I've had in my lifetime. Watching them win the Big Ten tournament in 06 was huge. I haven't watched them personally go to a Sweet 16. I was alive when they did in the late 90s, but I certainly wasn't watching basketball. I was sucking on a pacifier. So it's a great moment, Jared. You're absolutely right. And I just hope fans appreciate it regardless of what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, same as well. I was just thinking back to the last time they won. Wasn't that like Adam Haluska? Hopefully I'm getting his name right.
Yeah.
It was that 06?
Yeah, 06 was the Horner, Haluska, Bruner, Hansen. I want to say Doug Thomas was on that team. Alex Thompson was on that team. Yeah, that was a fun team to watch, and unfortunately ran into a Northwestern State team that knocked him off. That's what can happen in the NCAA tournament. And Iowa, I believe, what was Iowa, 3 seed? I have to go back and look. I think they were 3 seed.
I remember that game vividly, unfortunately. That was a last second 3-pointer to knock them off. After that tournament win. Yeah.
Right.
But I will say, and as far as this team goes, what a inspired team. I mean, they fight back. I have been very critical of Jordan Bohannon this whole season, but when his back's against the wall, he steps up, and it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Absolutely, and he's given max effort on the defensive end all year, Jared, and that's one thing I've been a bit on Jordan Bohannon for in the past, is I felt like at times he hasn't given max effort, and I would say for the majority of this year he has given max effort. And by the way, I just want to address this. So Doug, 84 is a season average. I'm looking at conference play. Iowa had a really, really weak non-conference schedule, as we know. So when you have 100+ scoring games against the likes of, Central Michigan and Portland State, it's going to completely shift that season average. So look at conference-only stats. That's a better indication of what Iowa will face once you get past at least the first round of the NCAA tournament. Those are the numbers. They're not averaging 84 in the conference. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, not too much to say tonight. Just ecstatic about the win. Really, really powerful for the Hawkeye franchise. I think the Fran fade, the Fran McCaffrey struggles at the end of the season are kind of being retributed here. So I'm excited for the team. I'm stoked for tomorrow, and just a wonderful win. So thanks a lot, Corey.
Jared,
and we'll talk next time.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You brought up the Adam Woodbury thing on
yes, I did.
Video from yesterday. Now you are a Wisconsin fan as well, correct?
I'm a Wisconsin alumni. Yeah.
Now I'm curious.
Iowa,
Listen. You and I disagree on this, but I want to know why you compared Adam Woodbury to Brad Davison specifically.
Okay, no, that's a fair question. I would say because there was before Brad Davison was a player, Adam Woodbury was being accused of similar type of dirty fouls and dirty plays, and that was somewhat forgiven. And then I don't think he went down as a dirty player, but you've kind of castigated him as or Brad Davison rather, as like a punk and a thug. And I don't agree with that entirely. Okay. I can see why you think that way in certain ways, but he's an undersized guy who plays for the Badgers, which isn't like a powerhouse in general. And he does what he has to do to get his team to win. So, I just disagree with you on that a little bit, but it's not a big deal. But
Yeah.
the Adam Woodbury thing crossed my mind.
I have no problem with you having a different opinion. That's what makes this show great, because people can call in and have different opinions, and I appreciate you voicing yours. Here's what I'll say, and then we can just drop the subject. Adam Woodbury was accused of being dirty because of two specific incidents that happened, and those were he poked somebody in the eye, and then he poked somebody in the eye again, and one of them was against Wisconsin, and you had Dan Dockich running his mouth. I'm not saying, I can't say with 100% certainty that those were unintentional, but you watch those plays back, and I'm not convinced they were intentional. I know Adam Woodbury, don't know his family real well, but have talked to Adam in the past. I can't imagine. And I know Brad Davison is respected amongst a lot of Badger fans. He's involved in volunteer work. I get it. I've heard a lot of good things about Brad Davison off the court. But I think it's easy to look at Adam Woodbury's incidents and say, given the kid's character, it's likely those were unintentional. You can't say with 100% certainty. What I've seen from Brad Davison, the crotch shot to Connor McCaffrey, the trying to trip a player, the hook and holds. To me, it's just such a pattern, as opposed to Adam Woodbury, where it happened twice, and that's why people started to get up in arms about it, because one time they didn't think anything of it, but twice they got up in arms about it. I just see too much of a pattern of behavior with Brad Davison. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be a homer because I'm a Badger fan as well as a Hawkeye fan, but
I understand.
Yeah, I don't mind scrappy players. I think they're just fighting hard, and oftentimes for teams like Iowa or Wisconsin, they need those type of guys to push them over the hump. So
right. No, I respect your opinion. There's no question he's helped that team. I mean, he's a skilled guy. I mean, I don't think he's going to play in the NBA. I just, and a lot of that has happened against Iowa, and that's the other part of it. But, I can see where people would say that if he's on your team, you love him. Like I said, I didn't like the comparison, but at the same time, I understand Badger fans sticking up for the guy because he's helped them win a lot of games and win a couple Big Ten championships.
Yeah, I would say outside of Bohannon, he's like the second most tenured player in the Big Ten history.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be close.
Yeah.
Both those guys have been around for ages.
Yeah, Jess Settles can also be in the conversation, but you're right.
Grandpa Settles, yeah.
Yeah, Brad and Jordan are the old guys in the Big Ten. There's no question about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Corey. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game. Looking forward to your coverage afterwards, and keep it up.
Appreciate it, Jared.
Thank you.
Let's get a win tomorrow. Appreciate the call. And I respect someone else's opinion on it. I've been very outspoken about Brad Davison because I feel that the Big Ten and Wisconsin have not done enough. That's just my thoughts. Call line is open, 515-635-1601. Jack brings it up. Purdue has pulled it out, 75-70. So it's the Boilers versus the Hawks tomorrow. Let's get to our next call. We're about 2.5 hours into this thing. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, you got the other Jared here. What's up, Corey?
Jared the actor and the Jared the non-actor. How's it going, buddy?
It's going quite well.
Yeah. What have you been doing?
No,
the
I
last
just wanted
2
to.
hours?
What? Sorry.
What have you been doing the last 2 hours? Have you been, bathing?
Well, I celebrated a little bit, and then I went to the gym and I lifted, and that's about it.
You didn't streak the neighborhood or anything like that, right? You didn't get the
no, not really.
Okay. What'd you think of the Hawks?
Well, Jordan Bohannon's getting a lot of credit, as he should. We're talking about him a lot, but I don't think Iowa really stood a chance if Keegan Murray didn't just hit shot after shot in the first half. Like he hit. Well, he was 8 of 10, by the way, from 3-point range. So it kind of scares me how good he's playing, because I'm like, I want him next year, because this Iowa team could be really good again, but he might be going to the NBA. But Keegan was pretty much the reason they won.
Yeah, I mean, I just, like I said, I went 2 hours into the show, and I didn't realize that Keegan had made 8 threes. I mean,
yeah,
what Jordan Bohannon did was tremendous, and we're oohing and eyeing over his 10 threes at Maryland.
He stepped up at the right time, but if Keegan doesn't hit those in the first half, I mean, maybe they do get back in the game some other way, but he stepped up and he took shots and he made them.
Well, 8 of 10. I mean, we oohed and awed
Yeah,
over
that's
Jordan Bohannon
ridiculous.
hitting 10 against Maryland on the road, and here Keegan Murray just made 8 on 10 attempts in a tournament setting for a spot in the Big Ten title game. No, it's unprecedented what he did.
And I think it really shows that he is, I mean, I'm just going to say it. I think he's better than Luka Garza, because Luka really had one, he had the post offense, right? And he was great at that. But if he was getting locked down, which he could step out and hit the 3, but he was nowhere near as athletic as Keegan. And they took away his inside game, but then he just stepped out. So he's more versatile, I'll say.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. And I just want to say this to the couple of people, and you know who you are, in our chat. Please don't start name calling in the chat. Seems like the longer we do these shows, the more tension. I don't know, why are we fighting? This is a good day. Let's not be calling each other morons, or let's not tell each other to go away. This is a safe place here. All right, this is a safe place, Jared. You're safe here.
Okay, that's good to hear.
So, yes. How do you feel about?
I just want one other thing.
Okay.
I think 2 really unsung heroes for the Hawks this year: Joe Toussaint and Philip Rebracha. And Philip Rebracha has just fought, and he scored a lot of points at North Dakota State. And he averages like 6 points. He doesn't score a lot, but he is playing out of position. He's a little undersized for a 5 in the Big Ten, and he's just fighting, and he's trying to work on the glass and doing whatever he can do. And I think he really enjoys playing on this team, even if he's not getting a lot of points. And then you got Toussaint, who's barely scoring, and he only had 1 assist today. I think that was to Sanford for his corner 3. It was a really good assist. But he had 2 steals that were pretty key too. And he too is just, I think he really likes playing on this team, and I don't think he's going to transfer. I know a lot of people have been saying things like Joe Toussaint's going to transfer, but Bohan's going to be gone. He's going to get minutes at the point. I think he's here to stay.
Well, I think the reason why people may assume that is because not only is Ulis has ascended, although he's for some reason not playing right now, but you got to remember too, DeSante Bowen is coming in next year, a pretty highly touted kid. At the point guard position. So I don't know what'll happen there.
That's true. But I think you can never have too many weapons. But
no, I agree. I hope he stays.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little nervous about Purdue. I don't know. Like I feel okay if they lose, because I don't feel like they're really going to get to that 5 seed line either way. I don't know. Maybe if they win, they will move up, but it's going to be a tough one. So even if they lose, I'm still going to walk away feeling pretty good about this tournament, given that they made it to that game. But of course, we're going to root for them. So we'll just see what happens.
Jared, you saw my bracket on Wednesday.
Did you have Iowa over Purdue?
I did not. I had Purdue over Iowa, but up until now,
I know you're perfect except for the Illinois. Or Indiana over Illinois.
I'm 11-1. So I hope I'm wrong tomorrow. I hope I end up 11-2. I'll take 11-2 in an Iowa championship any day.
All right, let's go for it.
All right, Jared. Appreciate the call. Call anytime.
All righty. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Good call. Good calls all day here. And I just got word that you're going to like this, folks. I'm going to start spreading the word on this right after we're done here. Special guest for tomorrow's show, following the Big Ten Championship game, Coach Gary Close and former Hawkeye Kent McCausland. Former Hawkeye Kent McCausland going to join the show tomorrow. Let's take our next call. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Corey Lemansky. I'll make it quick.
Yes. How are you, Lemansky?
I don't think you realize in the first half that everybody except Keegan Murray was 3 for 13 from the field. And my second point, and then I'll shut up, is that my chat to go away was he called Adam Woodbury, said Adam Woodbury sucked, and I probably should use different language, but
I gotcha.
I'm not going to let anybody attack a student athlete like that on a chat. Maybe I should, but
I understand where you're coming from, and no, Adam Woodbury did not suck. Yeah, if we're just being unbiased, Adam Woodbury was probably the best big defensive big that Fran McCaffrey has had here, and I don't think it's all that close. But he got a lot of flack, and no, I understand where you're coming from.
And I apologize. I should have typed in something a little tamer and more specific and just been simpler. But the other thing is that, you know, when you're a big player and you know, there's Ogule is just a young big player. Even Patrick, you know, grew so much when he was younger. It takes a while for those bigs that are above 6'8". That's what's so incredible about the Murray brothers, how coordinated they are. But they weren't, you know, they just unusual athletes like their father. But when you're a big, like, look what Luka Garza had to go through to be coordinated. Nobody trained like him. I mean, people have to be kind to a big in the Big Ten and even Iowa when they're young players. It takes a while, and I'll hang up and let you comment.
Appreciate it, Lemansky. Yeah, and Skylar, I see your comment here that I don't agree with you at all. But you know, you have a right to your opinion. You didn't like Adam Woodbury. Adam Woodbury, like I said, from what I know about Adam, and I've met Adam, really nice guy. I just, you know, I think he was underappreciated here as well. And I think big men sometimes get too much is expected of them. I think Rebracha is experiencing that. People will expect Rebracha to do more than maybe he is meant to do here. And Adam Woodbury was not a scoring big man. He's had you can say you laugh at G League. He's been in the G League a long, long time. And, you know, he's not a great offensive player, not a great shooter, but I really think that a guy like Woodbury would really help on a team like this. Now you may laugh at that, but I think having Woodbury against a guy, can you imagine Adam Woodbury guarding Trace Jackson Davis? Trace Jackson Davis ain't getting no 31. All right. He ain't getting no 31 today on whatever he was. 15 to 21 shooting. That ain't happening with Adam Woodbury in the game. So I'll say that. I mean, everybody has a right to their own opinion. And Rick, I respect your opinion on Iowa. And maybe we're not in as big a disagreement as maybe I thought we were. But you're right, Rick. Two of the lower defensive teams in the title game tomorrow. And so that would tell you that it's going to be high scoring. But there's no question that Iowa's going to have to play better defense and a very athletic team. And remember, last time Iowa played them, they did have Keegan Murray, but the time before that in West Lafayette, no Keegan Murray due to an injury. So we'll see who matches up against Keegan. I'll be anxious to see because Keegan's playing on another level right now. And this is a good point to remember. Aaron brings it up. The Iowa turnaround started with Adam Woodbury and Mike Gesell. And we got to appreciate that class because Woodbury, Gesell, Clemens really did a lot to help turn this program around. And I mean, some great success in the tournament. Jermaine brings up the NCAA tournament buzzer beater. That was absolutely a great memory. That's one of the better memories, right? I mean, to have a buzzer beater, I don't care if it's a tip in or not, to win a tournament game, that's a great memory. And Rick, you said it's your first time on the podcast. Well, I appreciate you being here. Did not realize this was your first time, but thank you for being here. Appreciate you interacting today. Please come back, subscribe, and come back if you can. Cooper, just have a weird feeling Chris is going to drop 25. Chris played pretty well, if I recall, each of the first two times against Purdue. All right. Let me pull up Iowa's schedule just so now that we know who Iowa's playing tomorrow. I can tell you the numbers from last time. So Iowa played Purdue in in West Lafayette back on December 3rd. December 3rd. Think about that. Patrick had 15 points. Chris Murray, 12 points. Tony Perkins, 14 points. That was really his coming out party. And then, really came on later in the year. Defensively, let's look at the team stats here. Purdue shot 42% from the field, 42% from three. Iowa shot 40% from the field, 24% from three. And yet they were in this game, got out rebounded 42-30. That's going to be a problem tomorrow. And yet they were in the game late. It was 77-70, the final. And then, of course, in the other game against Purdue in Carver, Purdue built a significant lead. Iowa came back, made it a game. And Zach Edey only played 15 minutes in that game. Iowa, 14 points from Keegan, 9 boards. So kind of an off day for Keegan. So Keegan has not had a big game against Purdue this year because he didn't play in the first game. Patrick had 11 points, 4 boards in that game. Chris Murray, 23 points in that second meeting against Purdue, 5 rebounds for the younger of the two Murray brothers. And Purdue shot 61% in that game. I remember talking with Coach Close following that game, how good offensively, how equipped Purdue was for dynamic offensive performances down the stretch of the season because they have so many athletes, so many shooters. Stefanovic has been there forever. Jaden Ivey's an athletic freak. They got size, they got girth. They've got it all. They just don't play defense consistently. I still think this is a top 4 team in the country if they can play good defense, but that's been questionable. Iowa shot just 38% from the field in that game. Purdue 59% from 3. I hope Iowa looks at tape from that game tonight, and certainly the Indiana game from today. Not sure how the tape viewing works in a tournament setting like this. That'd have been a question for Coach Close, but they'll have their hands full against a very talented, maybe the best offense in the country in Purdue. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
This is Aaron Swan. Been pretty vocal in the chat today.
Yeah.
I think what we have to remember going back to the pre-Fran McCaffrey years is what did we have going for us as a team before he came? And I think what we need to remember is that when Adam Woodbury and Mike Gesell chose to come to Iowa, I think that really, like I've been saying all along, is that it turned this program in the right direction to become who they are now. They are a consistent tournament team. They can't be, counted out at any point in the season. We've had 2 NIT seasons, and the rest have been tournament teams. So
right.
I think, this team has the potential next year to be at the top of the Big Ten, maybe not win the Big Ten, but probably a top 3 team if the right pieces come back. Keegan not going to come back. I believe he is a lottery pick. He's just shown that to be, who he is. He can take over a game at any point. But in my estimation, we have some great players coming in. Recruiting is on the rise. And so I think, this team the sky's the limit for this team going forward from here on out.
I agree.
It just depends on who we go, where we go in the tournament.
Aaron, let me just correct you on one thing. They did have the year during Bohannon's sophomore year where they missed out on the NIT as well.
Right.
That was
okay.
But
I have mistakes on that.
You're right on basically everything else. And I see somebody brought this up in the chat. What about Marble? No, Marble was a big factor in the turnaround, but Marble was committed to Licklider's team. Woodbury and Gesell, those were the first guys that Fran brought in. And Matt Gatens has to be credited, and Eric May should be credited. Jared Cole was on that first team. No, all those guys played a role.
Right.
But no, Adam Woodbury and Mike Gesell's value to this program and this turnaround is very much underappreciated.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, yes, the controversy behind Woodbury and, trying to compare him to Brad Davidson, is night and day. I mean, Davidson is constantly in the media's eyes, constantly a foul problem. He's been considered a dirty player. Is he a dirty player? I guess it just depends on if you're a Badger fan or not.
Right.
But I mean, he fouls hard. When he fouls, he gets a lot of, dirty plays, you could call them, called against him a lot.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, comparing him to Adam Woodbury and the Dan Dockich commentary of the eye poking, it's not the same. I mean, if it was every game, everybody's complaining about Woodbury in those games, eye poking. He was 7 foot tall. I mean, he was very long, but
yeah. I agree. And to me, I watched those back and I thought it was ridiculous that we're assuming that they were intentional. It was an odd coincidence, but that's what you call a coincidence, right?
Right.
And it's not a big coincidence. It's I think of the episode of Seinfeld with Elaine editing that Java's book, and they were talking about Jerry's little statue disappearing from his apartment. Now, if you've never seen this episode, you'll not know what I'm talking about. But I remember Elaine arguing with Java about,
a coincidence. That's what a coincidence is. There are no big coincidences or small coincidences. There are just coincidences. And I would say that about Adam Woodbury.
Exactly.
If it happened 3 or 4 times, I get it. But it happened twice.
Right.
And like I said, I cannot believe that Adam Woodbury would do that intentionally. Of all the dirty things to do, why would you poke a guy in his eye out on the 3-point line? I mean,
right.
I just
And can any of us, does any of us remember who we were playing when those happened?
Well,
I mean, I know who the
Wisconsin.
commentator was.
One of
course.
them was Wisconsin. One of the games.
Was it Wisconsin that happened against?
I think it was. I want to say Frank Kaminsky may have gotten.
Was that the year that wasn't that the year that he was named Player of the Year, the National Player of the Year?
Yeah, it might have been. In fact, Coach Close may have been on that staff. I'd have to. I got to look back at the years.
Ask him tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good question. Somebody bring it up in the chat tomorrow if you would, Aaron, because that would be an interesting conversation to have with Gary.
Right, but I mean, you have to get his thoughts on it because I mean, if he was on that staff, does he think that Woodbury was a bad player or a dirty player? Excuse me. And
Sure.
Were those intentional eye pokes? I mean, from
one of them,
an adversarial point of view,
I think one of them was Nigel Hayes. Maybe it wasn't Kaminsky.
Nigel Hayes, yeah.
One of them was Nigel Hayes that he poked, but
yeah. I remember that now. And then, I mean, and Woodbury kind of got drugged through it in the national media with that incident. So, I mean,
absolutely.
But it didn't happen, on a consistent enough basis like what we see with Brad Davision being, constantly looked at.
Right.
I mean, and then you had that guy from Duke, he's not really, a clean
Grayson
player
Allen.
either. Not
No.
this year, but in years past, I can't remember his name.
Grayson Allen.
But yeah. So Grayson Allen, yep. He's done the same in the NBA too. So
He has.
I mean, then that's what you call consistently being a dirty player, quote unquote.
I agree with you.
All right,
Aaron. Appreciate the call phone, buddy.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, folks. Gonna, I think, end things there. This has been fun. Almost 3 hours. The longest basketball show I've done all season. Jermaine, who do you think the officials will be for tomorrow's game? Would not be surprised to see Bo Borowski because I think he is sort of considered by the Big Ten to be the best official. Whether you agree with that or not, my guess is you're going to get him in there. I could be wrong on that. Hopefully it's not what's-his-face that did the first Rutgers game, and I can't remember his name. I bet you it's not going to be him. I'm at a loss for his name right now. But absolutely, that it's going to be an absolute, absolute treasure, a treat. That's the word I'm looking for. A treat to be able to watch Iowa play for a Big Ten championship tomorrow. So, Iowa Purdue in the Big Ten championship game Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Central Time on CBS. Selection show immediately to follow. I'll be live for the postgame show, and I'll be live for the selection show. So we'll have to see I'll have to figure out how to do this because the postgame show will actually be during the selection show. So we're going to have Kent McCausland on live. So it's going to be a fun show. I hope lots of people join us for the show tomorrow. But again, Iowa, Purdue, 2:30 p.m. Central Time Sunday. Courtney Green, that's the guy. Thank you, Jermaine. Thank you, Connie. Courtney Green, hopefully don't get him tomorrow. Probably not at the top of the Big Ten's list. But Skylar, you're just fine. No problem. I know you're just giving people grief, but let's just keep it clean, everybody. So, but appreciate you being here as always, Skylar, and everyone else who's taken the time. We will talk to you tomorrow following what we hope to be an Iowa Big Ten tournament championship. How great will that be? Thanks, folks. Have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.